Okay, and we're live. Um, Welcome to a special guest version of And We're Live. Oh man, I'm getting echoing audio. Let's fix that real quick. So, today on our cosplay photo critique, we have a special guest joining Sarah and I, and that is Mallo. Thanks for joining us here today, Mallo, through all our technical difficulties. Sorry to those who were expecting us to start a half an hour ago. The technical difficulties put a slowdown on that, but knock on wood, I think we're going just fine right now. So yeah. Let's see. Mallo, do you want to introduce yourself at all?
Hi, I'm Mallo. I'm a photographer. I don't know what you want me to say.
I don't know. Like, how long have you been shooting cosplay for? Maybe what you go for in your photography, that kind of stuff.
Oh Lord. I feel like I've been shooting since 2011 at my first Otakon, which was hot back when it was in Baltimore. I know it's now somewhere else, but yeah, I think that's when my first cosplay that I shot was a Boba Fett, and it was awesome. And I was like, I want to keep shooting cosplay. This is really cool. So yeah, for a few years now.
And then maybe give a quick what kind of what you look for when you're shooting photography. Like maybe you don't need to go super in detail with cameras, but maybe what you also like. Are you mostly natural light, that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah, for sure. I prefer natural light 99% of the time if I have to shoot indoors, which usually there has to be a lot of natural light coming in. I'm not really good with flashes and those kind of things, so I also prefer nature. So I usually I don't know. I'm more attracted to cosplays that work in nature or outdoors, or even if it's like street photography, like something that's outdoors for sure. That works for the character. So, yeah.
Cool. Well, this will be interesting having a panel of 3 this time. Hopefully, it all goes well from here on out. But I figure it's time to jump right into things with our first photo. We're gonna do this in alphabetical order for just the submissions. Just makes life easier. So with that, our very first photo is going to be Carlos's photo of Mango Cause. So you guys can let me know when you have that up on your screen so that we can jump right into this.
I got it.
I'm good.
Cool. Anyone want to start off right away?
Sarah,
You start.
Me?
Yeah, you start.
The you start doesn't work when we have 3 people on here now, Sarah.
Andrew, you start.
There you go. All right. So, immediately looking at this shot, I enjoy the kind of overall feel of it, and I think overall as a picture, it's pretty close. I think in the details is where the shot could use some work. I think the biggest thing for me looking at this immediately is I feel like the main light, obviously this is strobed, the main light is straight onto her. You can tell it's looks like there's 2 lights that are coming on her face there. You can see the catch lights in her eyes, and they're you can tell that they're very straight on because they're happening in the pupil instead of the iris. And I would love to see this with that light shifted over to the left, camera left a little bit, so it's shooting a bit more straight onto her torso and make the light have a bit more depth and feel less flat. Also, coincidentally, if I feel like if you tried to do this shot with if there were lenses in those glasses, you'd be screwed with those lights straight on because you just get this entire
There would
washed.
be no eyeballs. It would just be
Yeah.
white circles.
Yeah. So yeah, like, I mean, honestly, 9 times out of 10 when I'm shooting strobe, I like to put my key light straight onto the cosplayer's torso. So, for here, that would be camera left, pointed towards where she's facing. So, not with her. This is lit straight onto her face. I'd want it lit straight onto her torso. I always find that provides a really nice light quality. And I think that would provide kind of a bit more depth to this lighting. Other thoughts on this right off the bat is the framing is a little odd. I think I know why it was framed the way it is. Because, like, if you look in that upper left corner, I don't know what that is, but it looks like probably like an inflatable or something, like something super colorful and assumed from like something else that was over there. So if you push the camera to the left, you'd start getting more of that in the frame, and I think that's why this framing probably ended up being the way it was. But
I think I know. Oh, sorry. Continue.
No, I was gonna say, but as it is right now, her elbow is touching the edge of the frame, and I really wish the frame she was scooted over to the right in this frame a bit more.
Mm-hmm. So I think I know where this was shot. I'm pretty sure this was shot at Colossal in the indoor pool area, and I think where it is though is like there's like that weird hot tub outside, but then there's an entrance that you can go in through the inside, which is where I think this is taken, and that space is actually pretty narrow. Because I recognize this stuff on the top left is just kind of like the fencing, and they have all these like fake things over there to give it like atmosphere or whatever. So there isn't a whole lot of room from what I can remember to move around here. But that being said, I think this is like kind of technically finicky, but this would be a good time to like a way to expand the image if her elbow was turned in like a little bit more would just to be like composite some of the pool that you have over on the right onto the left to get rid of that weird thingy and give it more space. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think also pose wise having both of her arms up by her head feels a bit it makes the image a little bit top heavy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the front arm, if you had that down instead of up,
like on her waist.
Yeah, I don't know. Like you get this really lovely curve coming off her back there, which I don't necessarily want to get rid of. So maybe it would be your backhand goes down. But I think with both of her hands up. There as they are now, it feels a little just bit top heavy with the pose.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
Her hair thingy. I would have asked her to remove that.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That I was wondering if that was a rubber band. Yeah, I would have taken out that purple thing in the corner altogether. Because literally, this is the first thing I looked at.
It does kind of call a lot of attention to itself.
I'm assuming it's probably someone else swimming or like something, which I know is like, especially in the indoor pools at Colossal, it's like so hard to like get some space to shoot. I feel like I would have enhanced her facial features if I was to go into this. I would have enhanced like her makeup a little bit. Because it seems like the shadows for her like eyeliner and those kind of things are a lot lighter. I know that the light's hitting down on it, but I don't know. That's something I personally like to do.
I would totally do that as well, but I think a lot of that helps with having that light not straight on.
Sure.
I think one of the problems that light straight on causes is you kind of lose her jawline. Her jawline and her neck kind of blend together.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And that's not really what you want. Like, it's not. I don't think like it's a terrible offender of that, because you can still see where that jawline is. But it does take a little bit more focus at looking at that.
For sure.
I
like the colors. I like the blues.
that blue's really really nice.
Makes the glasses pop. I love having some red.
I was just gonna say the glasses end up popping pretty well because of that. I think some color toning would help this, and like the corners are very dark. Those top left and right corners are very dark. I'd almost like them to be close to the same brightness level as the bottom left and right corners.
Yeah, to balance it out a bit.
Yeah, because like it I think it'd make the photo have like a bit more of a softer feel to it, and I kind of think that's what this shot was aiming for. But
it gives me that feel good anime. Like, I like that
glow
angle. Yeah, the glow in the angle. It's just like cute. They got down like the mood for sure. Like I was like, oh, I know her.
Yeah, like the rear light that's lighting up that water there, is really good, because like it kind of gives the image a bit of that like natural vignette, and draws your focus onto her versus anywhere else in the image. Except for that upper left corner. Honestly, instead of like looking at it more, instead of clone stamping it out, what you could do is you could go back and just like with on a layer in Photoshop and set it to color and just brush blue over that color area. I don't think the texture is the problem. I think it's the colors that are the problem. So, taking out that color, I think, would fix it, help a lot. Other nitpicky detail, there's on the upper right of the image, close to the corner, it looks like you're also getting like a piece of fabric from someone else's cosplay or whatever, what have you. I don't really know what it's from, but it's just mildly distracting and should be like a really quick and easy Photoshop out. Yeah. Trying to think. Anyone else have any other comments for this one?
No, I mean, I really like the lighting. I like the colors, like we've already said. And I really think the biggest thing for me is the crop of the photo is a little odd. But other than that, I think it's pretty solid.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Ready to move on to the next one?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one is Christine's. Let me know when you guys have that one open.
I know they opened. Wait, hang on. Give me a sec. Okay, got it. It like didn't open in alphabetical order when I opened them all in preview. They opened up in like separate windows too.
I don't even tell you how my stuff is over here. Okay, I got it.
We're professionals, sort of, sometimes.
Cool. I started last time, so who's jumping in this time?
Can I go?
Yeah.
Okay, first off, I need guidance because I don't know what this is from. So I like the cute Lego Batman and Robin. Is that from that Lego movie? I'm assuming.
Well, see, I was confused by that too. I wasn't sure if this was supposed to be something from the Lego movie or
if it was just adding because it's cute.
Yeah.
Which I was gonna ask about because I'm obviously not sure, but we can move on to the next thing because it's cute.
Yeah.
The first thing that I'm not a huge fan of with this photo is, which a lot of people do, and I do it too, but I tend not to do it in with something that's like with the sky that white with no like detail, is the vignette. I don't know. I definitely like vignetting to bring focus to one subject, but when there's like three, I feel like it takes away from, in this scenario, Batman and Robin, which I know they're obviously in the background, but they're supposed to be a part of it. So I kind of like, I don't know. It makes me like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? It takes away from them.
And honestly, that strong vignette along white like that always feels kind of odd, and like to me, what it does is it screams photoshopped to me.
It looks like the vignette filter.
Yeah. I think what this photo is potentially asking for is a sky replace. Because that white sky is not doing it for me.
It almost makes it seem like it was photoshopped. You know what I mean? Like it's not a real sky almost. That's how I feel.
I feel like the vignette is what's doing that. But like as it is right now, it just feels like a blown out sky.
Yeah.
I'm trying to tell by looking at this more, and I think what was the case was, this was also flat. This was strobed, but like it's got that very direct flash look to it. I don't know if this was on-camera flash that was used. That's kind of what I'm thinking it was. It looks like on-camera flash. So what I'm thinking in this situation is, if you dropped your exposure a little bit so you could get like a bit more detail in the sky, potentially, take it from that overblown state to a white, and if you're still gonna use your on-camera flash, use it as a fill. And that way the exposure of the scene ends up feeling a bit more balanced. That said, I've never really been a great advocate for on-camera flash, so I think right now the on-camera flash doesn't feel like it ended up being a fill. It feels like it ended up being the key and is lighting a majority of her. And I think that might be like if you're shooting like with that on-camera flash in TTL mode and it's exposing and trying to see the black of her suit and is trying to as TTL does, registers everything as gray and is trying to get that black to gray, so it's pumping out a lot of light, and ends up, admittedly exposing her correctly, but then everything else ends up getting blown out as a result, or at least the sky. The building in the background is I'd say properly exposed, but I don't know if I want that to be properly exposed.
Yeah, I mean, and you can tell that if you get real close into her hair and stuff like that this was like cut out maybe, or there's like it was placed here. I can tell at least with her hair.
Oh yeah, there's some weird cutting out on the left.
I don't.
That looks.
So,
but most of it's pretty clean, but
Yeah, I don't know. The reason I say I don't know is because we're getting that kind of like bluish fringe on there.
Yeah, the fringe.
And it's
Maybe
really hard to tell with that overexpose.
Yeah, true.
I mean, the sky could have been cut out. I don't think she was cut out and put into this picture because, like,
Okay.
you look at, like, just kind of looking at the rest of the image. I don't think that's the case. I'm not so sure that she was cut out in general because I feel like we're seeing a lot of, like, if you zoom in, you can see color fringing on her cutout, which I don't think would be as clear if you cut and pasted this in. Or cut out
That
the
sky is like perfectly white. I don't see any indication of cloud or anything.
But
There may have been there's some painting, it looks like. I'm like really zooming in. Okay, we're getting like a little carried away, but that's okay.
I think we're a little beefing on this one.
To the left, there looks like there's some like painting of the sky, like the building's kind of fuzzy on the edges. Okay, regardless, let's just take it back. Take it back.
Yeah. So I think.
Oh, Christine reached out to me and she said it wasn't cut at all.
That's what I thought.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am impressed by how she added those. I am not good at adding content, so. It's impressive to me.
Yeah, I think the Batman Lego in the upper left ends up feeling more natural to me than Robin in the lower right. Like, I don't know, maybe it's just scale, like he feels a little bit too small, or I'm not sure if it's that, or if it's the lighting, or what have you. That's causing him to look a little unnatural in this shot.
The tiny Lego man.
Yeah,
So I was gonna say earlier, like I think what's really, well, at least what's really throwing me off is the vignette. But I almost feel like if the entire image was treated in a more like flat style that reflected on the Lego men, so I feel like even if just the vignette was removed, it would feel a lot. It would feel more balanced, and I think it would make more sense. So even though the sky is really, really white, I think just in this case, because everything feels so flat to begin with, the vignette ends up hurting that. But I think you could go in the direction of keeping things flat to go with the like Lego movie aesthetic. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Yeah.
The more I look at this, I'm kind of at odds with myself because the bat, you wouldn't have room to. I feel like she's too low in this frame, and her head needs to be up higher in the frame for it to feel a little bit more balanced.
Yeah.
But one, I imagine what is lower in this frame is not interesting. It's probably like a wall, so that you're getting that building in the background. And then two, you remove your room to place Batman in nicely. So, yeah, I don't know.
I think the other thing for me is not knowing where, like, if Batman's going to be in this, like, where's that rope coming from? Like, where's he swinging from?
I thought about that as well. It didn't.
Like, this is a concept of cartoon, so, like, nothing makes sense, but I would also be like, where is he coming? I guess he could be coming from a helicopter, so, but that's another thing. I'm like,
Yeah, I thought about that. I don't know if it really bothers me. What does bother me is that with how heavy that vignette is, the vignette is, the exclamation bubble was placed over the vignette. And that feels odd to me. What could be fun, and you really play with this sparingly if you wanted to go this route. I think this could be an ideal candidate for applying some filters to this to kind of give it a more comic book style.
Yeah.
Because as it is right now, I think the style of the Legos and the style of photo are kind of at odds with each other.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of like choose one aesthetic and kind of just go for it. Like if you're going for that comic book thing, like just take it to the next level.
Okay.
You go to the next one?
Yeah, I think we're ready. So the next one would be White Specs.
It's my boy. It's Eddie. I'll start because I know he'll love that.
Okay. Go for it, Sarah, then. Feel free to tear Eddie a new one. I mean, critique him, critique him kindly and nicely.
Something I actually really like right off the bat is the movement of this person's dress. It is like so beautiful, and I feel like the way that she's been lit. I'm also gonna go back to the lighting later. I just feel like the way all the folds of her dress are being caught and like in the light. I don't know. I just really love the movement that she's doing. But to go back to the lighting, I almost feel like it feels a bit it's too bright. I think it's a little too overexposed for my liking. I feel like she kind of blends into the background a bit too much. I do like the backlighting idea though, because it does give like this really like glowy, ethereal feel to it, which I think lends itself to the character really well. I'm not really sure what she's cosplaying, but it looks like she's wearing a wedding dress, so that makes me think like this should be like a very dreamy scenario. Yeah, so I like the feel that you were going for, but I think it's a bit too bright, and there should be some more dodging and burning to help separate the model from the background.
So, let me jump in and interject on that real quick. I totally agree.
Okay.
I don't know if dodging and burning's necessarily gonna help as much as you want it to, because I think
because it's so bright.
I think it's blown out in a lot of these areas.
Okay, yeah.
A quick pop into Photoshop shows that it's the kind of her veil that she's got behind her head. There is no detail in there. That's just all white. Like the only bit of that veil that you have is the little bit on the top, but otherwise, like so much of that has been lost. Which, whatever. I it's hard because to balance that out without blowing that out, especially with how thin that material is and how sheer it is, it's going to be really difficult.
Yeah, I don't work with lights like at all, so I don't know if this is a matter of it was shot and it was the lights were just too bright to begin with, or if the brightness was brought up in post. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't
like before. I would see the before image, like if any of that detail was there to begin with the veil.
Yeah, I would. It's hard to say. I almost think that the overall brightness might have been brought, it does give that look of like boosted shadows, which isn't necessarily bad. I think areas were blown out in the shot. I wish it was showing. See if I can get this to go. Nope, that's not what I want. I was trying to see if I could get my screen to share with all of you to go into Photoshop, but apparently this is being super weird for me and not working. So, whatever. But like, if you look on the ceiling of that archway, a lot of that is blown out to 100% white. Oh, is it screen sharing now? Yay, it's screen sharing.
It was
now.
for like a hot second. Oh, it is. I see it.
So like all those areas that are white are completely blown out. So I think that information is gone. So I think maybe if you exposed this image a little darker, that could have helped with that area. I think the area directly behind her, totally fine to have that blown out. I think that's absolutely perfectly fine to have that blown out. I just would love to have a little bit more detail in the veil behind her and in the archway above her.
Agreed. I want to bring up one more thing that bothers me a little bit. I feel like this was so close to being symmetrical, but it's not. And I really wanted that. Oh, that lantern is like just throwing me off like a little bit. I think that like that gives it away that it's not symmetrical. And I feel like when you're in this kind of this area, this type of location where the architecture lends itself to have this like symmetrical framing, like you either got to do it or you just don't do it at all. Because right now it's like my eye really wants it to be symmetrical, but it's not.
Yeah. So we had talked about this on a previous episode, and it bothers me less here than it did in that previous shot we critiqued.
Yeah.
I think it's because her pose is not symmetrical. That it bothers me less. Also, that like if you take a line and draw it through, where the columns are, those are perfectly lined up at the bottom. It's just at the top where it starts getting weird. And actually, that lantern is almost exactly center in the frame. It's that the camera is tilted just ever so slightly, which at wide angle, super easy to screw that up. So honestly, what you could do is, this is a potential, I don't know. I tried to fix it and then I think it screwed it up in other areas. I think it really was just a mixture of it having like the camera just tilted ever so slightly, because like if you look at the center vertical lines, they're leaning to the right ever so slightly. Yeah, it's hard because like this was probably shot at like, I think Eddie shoots full frame, so probably around like you know, between 11 and 14 millimeters or something like that. Like something's really wide. No, that would be.
I think it's probably the 1635.
Yeah, so like probably on the 16 edge of that though. Yeah. Which getting that right is pretty difficult.
It's hard. I can't shoot wide, so
yeah. Eddie shoots wide so much better than I do.
Yeah. Same.
But I really like the ethereal nature of this.
Does anyone want to keep tally how many times we're going to say the word ethereal in tonight's stream? Because you ain't wrong, Neil on photography.
That and like the color toning is, I feel, is really nice on this. It feels very subtle. It's not screaming like I've been color toned.
Right.
It feels natural, but gives a really pretty look to it.
Mallo, what do you think?
I wanted to let you guys have your moment.
No,
that's why we brought you on. Come on, look, get in here.
I'm really, first off, for everyone watching, it is really hot in my room, so that's why I'm so red. And I got sunburnt at the zoo, so that's the first thing I'm going to let y'all know. I'm not dying. Okay, so this is like completely my aesthetic. The gold, the yellows, come visit me in my apartment. Like that lantern, I want to take it. It is like perfect. And especially, I don't know what this series, like what series this is from, but like it just goes with it. I'm really impressed by the movement of the dress. The placement of the lantern doesn't really bug me. See, I'm more of a, I feel like especially in the cosplay photography community, perfection and very, just perfection is something that we strive for, but I like that kind of almost natural, like, oh, must have just took a picture of her and she had no idea. Like, I like that whole, like, not everything's symmetrical, but I do like it at the same time. It just depends. So in this case, it didn't bug me as much, but if I had to choose, I would have liked it in the middle. But I kind of feel like it would have been weird for it to be right over her head. But that's just me. I don't know. It didn't bug me too much, but I could totally see. I would have probably brought the highlights down for sure. Just because it just washes out her hair a little bit. I think that's the only thing I feel like I kind of have to, like, strain my eyes kind of with. But I kind of almost like how her dress is meshing with the light. Almost like, I don't know, I'm getting all, like, magical and fantasy about it. But I don't know. I like
the word we are going for there is ethereal, Mallo.
Oh, sorry. I might, like, have a list when I say it, though. Magical. I just love it. But honestly, I'd totally buy a print of this. I want to frame it in a gold antique frame. This is beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, jumping off on that one, the movement in this is really lovely. The flowing dresses and capes and what have you in cosplay photography is, like, something that is utilized so much. And, like, I'd say half the time, if not more, it looks super fake. Like, you can tell someone's just out of frame flipping this or, like, you know, what have you. But it looks really good here. It's a very natural flowing movement. It doesn't, like, it doesn't scream to me. I don't know if this was her completely doing that or if there was someone, you know, flipping her dress off to the side that ran out of the frame. But either way, the movement's really nice. The only other thing that I would say is I want, like, and honestly fake this, put some, like, fake catch lights in her eyes. Because, like, right now her eyes are just kind of I think, like, they're almost completely black. Like, there's no details in them. And, like, even adding, like, a small fake catch light to kind of add, like, a bit of bright pop to it, I think would just help just a little bit. That said, because of Facebook compression, posting this on social media, you probably wouldn't ever see that anyways, but, you know.
Not wrong.
Yeah, and the distance of the shot, unless you're getting all up in her business.
Yeah. No, like, we have these at fairly high res, so, like, we're zooming in and looking at these, and other nitpick, it looks like we're getting some, like, chromatic aberration on the right side of her cheek. Just flip that toggle on in Lightroom when you're editing. Get rid of that. Yeah, it's looking closer. It's also on, like, her left arm. You can see it there. It's not a terrible offender for chromatic aberrations by any means, but, like, it's super easy to fix. You just pretty much need to flip a toggle in Lightroom, so that's why it's kind of like, if you can fix it, just fix it.
Yep.
Any final thoughts on this shot from Eddie?
It's perfect. Great.
It's ethereal.
It's ethereal. Ethereal out of 10. Okay. Let's keep her rolling. We're going to go from this shot from Kai. You know, when you guys have it.
Got it.
Cool. I don't have it up. That would probably be useful. Okay.
Yeah. Oh God.
That sounds great when you're looking at someone's work and the first comment is, "Oh
no,
God."
I tried to increase the size of it and it got all I don't know what's happening with my preview thing tonight. It's all whack. There we go. Jesus.
We're consummate professionals over here.
We love technology.
Oh yeah, we do.
Okay. Want to start this one? We'll just do a loop.
So me?
Andrew? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I think the first thing that needs to be talked about in this shot, because it calls so much attention to it, is the effects that were added in on this photo. Overall, I actually like them a fair amount. I have some nitpicky comments on them, but more often than not, I think photoshopped in effects in cosplay photography ends up cheapening the photo. Here, I don't necessarily. I think it actually added, and I think a lot of that has to do with the color it's adding to this shot, which is really nice, and I do like the kind of particles that they're coming across. The one thing that is bothering me is, and this is something I've seen hundreds of times in photography, and in terms of like, so I'm gonna see if I can. Yep, cool. Screen sharing my thing. So this piece of, like, I'm just gonna call it energy on the right. If you have the energy glowing, that white needs to be as bright as your brightest spot in the photo. So in this case, for this photo, it needs to be pure white. It can't be translucent on the center of this energy glow. It can fade off as it goes to the sides of it, but you can't adjust the transparency of it because it loses the effect. That's something I've seen so often, and it is something a lot of people get wrong, and it comes out of the desire to make the effect subtle, but if you're going to put the effect in there, I think you need to commit to it, and you can't lower the opacity. It needs to be that pure white. If you're going to have a white glow, it needs to be pure white. On the other side, however, the glow doesn't ever, like, there's a little bit of pure white right here that should be fully right. But, like, since this is like almost like a saturation and brightness glow, and it doesn't hit bright that full white, it feels more natural, and I think it ends up working better. Now kind of that was nitpicky, and I probably shouldn't have started off there, but kind of go into the photo as a whole. Compositionally, I know why you framed it this way, but it feels like we need to pull the photo. The camera lens needs to be shifted to the left a little bit, because the balance feels off. Like, I want to have these two kind of centered in this frame. I know why you didn't do that. Like, they should both be on the thirds of this photo. So, like, one head is being dissected by 1/3, and the other head being dissected by the other third. Which, coincidentally, if you crop this photo in, you get. I assume you took it wider on the right side of the frame because of that, like, arch piece that comes off of her back, and wanting to get more of that in the frame. I understand that desire, but I think it hurts the framing by doing that. Your other option, I think, is to take this shot a little wider, and then you can have more negative space on the left side of the frame and get more of that on the right. But I think you kind of need to have them both on the thirds to really balance out this composition. Then there's one other major thing that is throwing me off with this photo. The cosplayer on camera right looks like she's looking directly into the camera. Totally fine.
Yep.
Cosplayer on the left looks like they're looking to the right of the camera. And it's really throwing me off. Like, I want them both looking... They can both be looking in... I think that you've got 3 choices here. Both of them can be looking in opposite directions. Both of them can be looking in the same direction, and both of them can be looking at the camera lens. And mixing them up really gives a weird feeling. Like, it makes the cosplayer on the right feel like she knows what's going on, and the cosplayer on the left feel like I get this confused feel, like she doesn't know what's going on in the photo, like she hasn't been directed well enough, and she's just kind of, she went in the pose and she's kind of standing there confused. I don't know if that's the case or not, but that's just the end feel I get because she's not looking.
Yeah, that was the same feel I got when I saw it. I want to get a little nitpicky.
Yeah, that's what we do here.
Okay. And I don't mean this in any offense to the cosplayer at all, because I know I've had these on my costumes too. It would be great to clean up the stray threads on the cosplayer on the left. I see a lot of loose hanging threads on her costume, and it would just be nice to get rid of those. Because once I noticed one, my eye just kept finding like new ones, especially on the left of her, like where her arm's raising. You can see a lot of these stray threads that she missed snipping in the making of this. So it'd be nice to clean those edges. I know it seems kind of tedious, but it's definitely something a cosplayer would really appreciate.
Especially the ones the kind of gold ones that are getting hit by the light, like
they're super highlighted.
Those are highlighted. The kind of fraying is a little less visible, but those gold threads are really screaming pretty loud.
Yeah. See, for me, they're both equally visible, just as someone who also makes their own costumes. Like, if I'd be so pissed at myself if I saw those, and if they weren't photoshopped out in some kind of way. So
it's funny because Kai just commented he actually did do some cleaning up of some of the threads on here.
No.
So
gotta get all of them, boy.
Yeah, it's hard because like I've been in this situation before where I've done a bunch of cleanup work on a photo, did like all the color editing, get ready, posted it, and as soon as I posted it, went, oh shit, I forgot to clean up this section.
Everything else.
And I'm just like, how did I miss that obvious thing? And I think I kind of imagine, since you did clean up of other threads, that like that's probably like how the heck did I miss that?
I've done it before too, and honestly, like now when I edit photos, it's the first thing I do is that I'll zoom in on a cosplayer and just scan their costume, because I know I'll forget if I do the color grading and all the other stuff first. Now it's the first thing I do, because I've done the same thing where like I'll edit a photo and then I post, I'm like, shit, freaking threads everywhere, I suck. And then you want to double post or repost or whatever. I just think it's just a good like workflow remedy. I think it's just doing during the dirty work first. But that was really like my thing. Was the threads. The guy was red.
And here's another thing that I don't necessarily think is on you, and honestly, I don't know how you would fix this necessarily, but the drape, that kind of sheer shiny fabric that's draping off of the arch thing on the right. Oh, God, that needs like to be ironed badly. And like
those are not very iron friendly.
No, and I'm sure they're not, but like the creases in them are just yelling at me. Especially because they're very bright. I think some healing brush tool could be used to fix it, but like, God, it's just such a unique fabric that might, working on it could make it look like crap. So.
Yeah, if you did too much to it, I feel like it would just look. I don't know.
Yeah, So
detail.
that's something that I notice, and I don't necessarily think is on the photographer necessarily to fix, but like, you know, it'd be worth maybe giving it a try, seeing if it, you know, if it was working out, and if not, nah. But I think the strongest point of this really is that blue to pink color tone. I think is coming off the energy is really quite nice.
I almost feel like I would have liked to seen this vertical.
Yeah, that could have been interesting. I also, my other thought was, I think this shot could have been cool against a even simpler background, like, or if you pulled them away from this background, the wall that they're against a little bit, because like, I am obviously identifying that like wrought iron fence that's above them, and then the white wall. Like, I almost, you know, there's so much going on with them that the background, you know, it's not a huge distraction, but like it's not an overly attractive part of the photo either. So I'd almost take an effort to try and completely kill that. I mean, theoretically, you could crop it out and put them against a different background, but with the feathers that are in this shot, I wouldn't want to do that myself. That sounds like a nightmare. So, like, you know, try to make your life as easy as possible. Just get that in camera. Anyone else have any thoughts on this one?
No. I like the color a lot. I think it's good.
Yeah, I really do think the color is what pushes this into being a unique looking photo.
At first, I wouldn't want something this dark, but I think it goes with the mood of like all that energy building, so everything around it's dark. Like I feel that mood.
I almost want the background to be darker. that's kind of like almost it could be an almost black background, and I would be totally fine with it. Okay, let's move on to the next one, which is gonna be Kelvin's.
Spoopy.
Got it up.
Hopes if I change it on the stream. Burp derp. Okay, cool. I do want to, before we get into this one, I liked Sarah's response, and just to let you guys know, we are reading almost all of the comments that are coming through in chat. David had the comment that what I'm learning currently is to take my time and notice costume mishaps during the shoot. So many times I go to edit and I'm like, whoops, that doesn't look like it should have been that way. Yeah, I mean, I think it's really hard. This is probably a problem I know I have, and I'm sure both of you are likely fall victim to this as well, is that noticing problems with the costume not during the shoot and noticing it when you get home. And it really does take slowing down and kind of really having that detail focus during the shoot, and that's not easy. I am not very good at that. That's why I usually, like, if I can, I like to have a second person along that I know is someone that pays attention, that's like specifically paying attention to if the cosplay is draping the way it should or that kind of stuff. And that's definitely a luxury that I do not have on a good amount of shoots that I do.
I sure don't.
It's
ever.
Yeah,
so
I was shooting this past weekend, and if it weren't for my friend Joe, like, there would have been Joe Schmo cosplay, everyone. If he wasn't there, like, literally, there were times there were just things that he catches because he's a cosplayer too, and he just notices these things, and the things that he caught sometimes I'm like, well,
Oh, I will say that when he was there for our MIFA shoot, and he was like getting in the water, fixing something like blast. Okay, that was the one time I had Joe. That was a good one.
Yeah. So
it's always great to have a second person.
as artists, I like to consider us artists. That's how I consider myself. We're paying so much attention to the composition of the frame, the overall look. Is the lighting good? And then we're not. We can tend to overlook if the hair is draping correctly on that side because we're worried about so many of these other factors in the shot. And I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is that we all have problems with it, and that's something that really just takes a lot of training and a lot of looking for.
It's a lot of screwing up on your own part. Like, I know one of my favorite photos that I've shot was, I think it was last year at ColossalCon, but I realized when I was editing that the sword, the blade was in the wrong, like, it was going the wrong way. Like, the blade is literally piercing, like, the cosplayer's shoulder, and I ended up getting, like, quite a few comments about it, like her sword's going the wrong way, like, her blade is literally going into her shoulder, and, blah, 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 blah. And again, that just comes from being more, like, just training your eye to look for those things and then remembering to even do it. So
another thing from personal experience, cons are more overstimulating and more time restraint than location. So you feel stressed to get done. I got 30 minutes because they have somewhere else to go. I have somewhere to go. I think I've learned to not put so much on my plate. So I have that more intimate time with the cosplayer. So I can... And I mean, I do paid shoots. I know you guys probably don't, so it still matters, even if you're not doing paid shoots. But so that the cosplayer feels like you care, and you do find more of these things because you're not so rushed, if that makes sense.
Right.
So. Totally. Okay, so now that we've had this shot up for a while we were having our little rant, I should have switched it to 3 camera things. But yeah, so if you have thoughts that you want to comment on, please comment. We're reading them. So
I have like 500 windows up, you guys. I got it.
Okay, so I think is it Mallo or Sarah up next? I did the last one.
Mallo.
Start off.
Hey, okay, so
hey.
Hey.
First thing, guys. I don't know how to act. The first thing is the strobe light. I'm assuming that is on the right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it there. It takes
I don't
away
like it.
I don't really like it. Just because it takes away from the model. I feel like I that's the first thing I look at, of course, but it just takes away from that magical, like, ooh, where's that coming from feel that I would get. Unless it's deliberately supposed to be there, which can be a thing, I think it'd be better without it. Just kind of have some mystery where that light's coming from. The lighting's really good. Obviously, this was... So I don't know. This is outdoors?
I'm going to interject real quick here.
Do it.
To say that, because that light was definitely something I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
And say that I mostly agree with your point. I think my biggest problem with this kind of stuff is the glow is flash shaped. So
yes.
It immediately scream, like, you can see like the outline of the strobe and like a little bit of like the mounting point of it, and I don't necessarily know if I mind the kind of glow that comes off of it. But one, I think you need to fix it so it's like an orb glow, like it's a roundish glow and not a flat, like not a specifically shape. that strobe. And to get that, like, I really like that pink flare that's coming into the image, that's affecting those blacks over there. Maybe you crop it down so you get just the start of that flare, and it gives a little less, like, I still think it's valuable, and I kind of like having the light direction a little bit, but
Are you meaning like you'd want it more as an orb shape?
yeah, I mean that's one thing, but then like the other thing is like I love the flare coming off of it, and I don't necessarily know if you want the like just barely get that light out of frame, so you're still getting that flare coming in that's indicating the light direction.
Yeah.
Without having like, because when you have that, it's a pure white on the very edge of the frame, your eye's going to inherently look at that.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think there's a problem with having the rim light in a shot if it's working for you in specific ways, but this being on the very right of the frame, it's taking your eye out of the image.
Yeah.
So that was my thoughts. Sorry, Mallo, I didn't mean to interrupt that.
No, I'm very ignorant to artificial light, so any kind of, anything works. I definitely would have done some skin retouching by her hip. Not necessarily taking the tattoos away, because I usually ask permission in those kind of situations too, because I personally, some people like to keep their tattoos in the image, but where there's kind of like this line, and it's probably from the paint and from her bottoms there. I would have touched that up a little bit. These are just nitpicky things, but I'm really big about skin retouching it being as not smooth as possible, because I kind of like texture, but I know that body paint's so hard.
So here's the thing with body paint and retouching it, and Kelvin actually mentioned this when he submitted this. Is he was unsure whether he should have gone in and cleaned it up a bit more in frequency separation. And I think absolutely cleaning this up in frequency separation, leaving that texture alone, because like her skin texture is quite lovely.
Yeah.
But then smoothing out the color would help a lot.
Yeah.
Like there's something to be said about that like kind of grungier application of the paint but I don't necessarily think it works here, especially with the sharp line that's coming probably from her like having sat down, and the body paint gives the impression like she put it on earlier in the day and it's close to later in the day. It doesn't look like it was intentionally put on to be grungy. It just looks like it's been on for a long time and it's started to wear off over the course of the day.
Yeah. The little nicks in the weapon I would have left alone. I like that kind of, especially with the character and the vibe. I know some people would probably touch those kind of things up. I would have kept it. Some of the texture of the costume. See, I think
that. Both Sarah and I would have probably gone and touched them.
See, and the thing is, I think I strive off imperfections too. It depends on the character and the vibe they're giving me. But that's where it's like, I'd probably have photographers like, where didn't you get that? And it's like, I mean, she went to battle, like, is their stuff always perfect? But see, that's me looking too far into a picture and making a story out of it.
No, it's nice, though, to have a other perspective here than two perfections.
But as someone who has had a prop where the paint chips and then it's not fixed in a photo, I'm like, God damn it. Like, it's funny, like, because I understand where Mallo's coming from. I think that's, like, getting into that level of narrative is great. But from, like, wanting your costume to be pristine, especially because the way these paint chips look, okay, I mean, I'm, like, zooming in here, guys. It just looks like just from, like, holding it throughout the day. So it's not, they weren't intentional. They were just the happenings of just being spray paint on PVC pipe, and everyone knows that shit does not stick. So, yeah, I would have cleaned them up, only because they don't look like intentional battle wounds to me. But that's just me. Anyway.
Man, I have to say though, the more I look at this, I think the overall lighting really is quite lovely.
Very beautiful.
Oh, it's amazing.
What I want is the pinks that are in the that are flaring off of the right. I want those pinks applied in all of the blacks in the image though. I think that could create a really nice mood of this image. Just to like, instead of having it be a pure black, having it like be like a really dark purplish pink instead. That kind of toning could be really nice. And since we talked about this earlier with Eddie's shot and
the flip. That's what I wanted to say.
Go ahead, Sarah. I've been talking a shit ton. Go for it.
Okay, yeah. So I was gonna bring up that before we talked about Eddie's photo, the white dress, where we felt the movement was just very natural. Like it looked like the cosplayer had moved on their own, and he caught that movement himself, like just naturally. Here, it kind of it is very obvious that this was a cape toss. And as someone who does these kinds of flips all the time, it takes me so many shots, like rapid fire shooting, to get the one that I want. And honestly, at the end of the day, it comes down to just like getting a bunch of them and then compositing the best cape together with the best like person. I think this flip isn't super great, only because you caught it at the pinnacle point of where it's like almost at its highest point. It would have been nice if it felt more like a natural like wind kind of like blowing cape, like wind blowing cape blowing in the wind. There we go. What is English anyway? Yeah. So I'm sure you probably got quite a few other shots of the cape flip. So it would have been nice to see maybe like in an alternative flip comped from a different image.
Yeah, the Sarah and I totally on that same page. The cape flip is just a little unnatural looking. It's I think it's because it's too high. Like,
yeah, it is.
Unless the wind is like incredible, there's nowhere you'd ever be standing and the cape's flipping above the person's head. Like, that's just not a thing that's really happened. Like, and you like look and her hair's like perfectly in place. It's not blowing as well. So like, if you're gonna do that kind of a cape flip, I think it needs to be much more subtle and much lower. Also, now that I'm looking at this, I hadn't realized this before, but I think there's actually I know there's actually another rim lights that's coming in with that blue as well. And I was just kind of absorbing this photo more, and the pink one is so obvious because it's applied more on the shot, and you see it in the frame. But like that blue rim light that kind of adds that extra color along the edges is really nice as well. I'd be really interested to see if you could like edit this where the background had like a one side where the side that the blue rim is coming from has a dark blue in the blacks, and then the pink side had those pinks in the slowly like add like a gradient to it, and that could be really neat in the shadows.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
I don't think I'd want it on her. I think you'd need to cut her out in order to have that work properly. That could be really cool. The only other final comment I have on this, and it's due to using strobe while they're wearing a hood and having it line up, like, it slightly bothers me that the lighting is so different on one eye than the other. It's not, I think, because of the character she is, and like if this were a completely different kind of shoot and she wasn't like a spoopy character, I think it would really bother me. So in this situation, it doesn't bother me quite as much. But it still is like a slight note. Like I like the lighting on eyes to usually be pretty similar from one eye to the other. I think it really provides a nice look, and just because of the shadow that hood's casting, it makes it a little different. Any other thoughts? Move on.
I'm good.
Cool.
Good.
Alright. Next one is Leon's.
Yo, you have submitted a photo every single time. I love it.
Killing it.
Killing it.
We haven't scared him off yet.
I know.
You'd think you'd learn.
Nah.
I'm just kidding.
Nah,
I'm just
man.
kidding. Thanks for keeping on submitting and wanting to continue to improve. That's awesome.
I hope we're helping a little bit. So what I want to say, like right off the bat, when I first saw this image, is I love the lighting. Overall, I think especially on the cosplayer, it looks just stunning. Like it just looks really. She's just captured just so beautifully. I think in this photo, it's lit.
God damn it, Sarah! No.
Yes. I also really like the.
I think you were trying to say the lighting is ethereal, Sarah.
No, I'm not. It's not ethereal. It's actually not. It's actually not. But I want to say I really like the subtle color grading on this photo. I don't know if this is a newer photo, but I know in your past ones, color grading wasn't as apparent. So I really like that it's like I can tell that you added more blues to the greens, and there's like subtle coloration to like the blacks, and I just really like it. It looks nice with against her pink hair. Something I'm gonna touch on a bit. We're gonna go, I guess this week's theme is the flipping of a piece of clothing. I do think this is I mean, all things considering, this is a pretty nice cape flip, but it also would have been nice to see her hair flipped along with it. Because this is an instance where it is more obvious in the previous photo that we looked at that her cape is moving, and her body is also kind of moving.
Her bottle's totally off.
Bottles. Yeah, so like her body is like moving, her cape is moving, but then like her hair isn't moving. So I think it would have been nice just to see like that like a flip being applied to the wig or like her hair as well would have been nice. Yeah.
Okay.
That's my spiel so far.
Mallo, you want to go because I've got things to say, but I feel like I've been talking a shit ton.
Yeah, I agree with the hair especially. It makes it real stiff. Because the first thing I think of is like either the wind is coming from like the whole wand situation or just natural wind. So the hair blowing would go with that. I almost would want her eyes in a different direction because I'm not sure what she's looking at. I think it's too stiff, her just looking straight on. It's almost like I'd want her to be looking either acknowledging the wand or looking at the camera. I don't know. I feel like she's real like mannequin looking off like that. That's just me though. I just lose that kind of like feel, that personality, not getting like the eyes. But the colors are great. I love the greens. I am a sucker for the darker greens, not so much yellow. Green is one of my favorite colors in photos. Love it, love it, love it. So like the location is really nice. I like the greenery, like going through the gate there. It's just different. I like it a lot. I feel like if the pose wasn't so stiff, I feel like there's something stiff about it. And maybe if it was brought out a little bit, because I don't really like that her cape's cut off. Besides that, I think this is a pretty nice portrait. It's very clean, nice. The skin's very clean and well done. And I like how the wand looks natural. That looks like extremely Harry Potter. So I'm proud of you, because that looks so real and natural.
Are you talking about the glow on it?
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm gonna call him no. I'm gonna call him no.
Don't dare.
You wrong.
No. I need to get in on this. So you know what that glow is, right? It's just a Photoshop. It's just a Photoshop lens flare.
It's
I
magic.
know it is.
And you can't use those. You can't use Photoshop lens flares. You can't. You can't. You can't. You can't. You can't.
I'm gonna pull up a Harry Potter movie poster. I can guarantee you it's gonna look a lot like that.
Yeah, and it's gonna look bad there too. But so here's the thing. Okay, like they're not using a Photoshop lens flare in the Harry Potter movie posters. The thing is, with these lens flares, I see the flare coming off. Like here, I'll do this. Turn that on. Like you screen sharing, you can see the lens flare coming off, and like I've been trained with years and years of using Photoshop filters that like my eye can pick up on the look of a Photoshop lens flare from like miles away. It seems it's just like boom, I instantly know it, and there's a very specific look, and I don't think they look very good. They have their usage, but I think using brushes, you could get a better look to this. But if you're going to use that lens flare filter, I think you need to get rid of the other element flare that's coming off in the like the bottom here. Like it's not good.
I don't
What?
even.
I don't see what you're seeing, man.
Me either.
Can you not see?
I'm
Like
blind.
if you go in the stream, you can see my screen share.
Are you talking about at the bottom right?
It's right next to her hand.
If that would be moved
Oh.
closer, maybe, or just taken out.
It
I
needs to
could
be
see-
taken out. Like I'm sorry, it does.
If that was taken out, you can't hate on that glow, man. I'm loving that glow.
Sorry.
Oh my god, I did not see that. Holy moly.
Hey, I'm impressed by a lot of things because I'm not good with special effects and all. I don't do all that. I'm highly impressed when people do it. But yes, I agree. That little flare maybe.
Yeah, because like it doesn't make sense because like those would be the reflecting of the glass elements in your lens.
Right.
If the wand was like facing towards the camera, like if it was moving, you'd usually see that kind of flare. You know?
Yeah, but it needs to be in the right spot with the right size to make sense for the elements
Yeah.
that are in it. Which, and I'm gonna say this again, the Photoshop lens flares don't look good, so don't use them.
Just use brushes instead. Like
Yeah.
that's what I do for all of my like little
Yeah.
ethereal glowy things.
It's gonna look better if you do that.
Or if you look up like bokeh textures, those work too.
Yeah, and to be clear, I'm not saying lens flare is the problem here. I'm saying Photoshop lens flare is the problem.
Yes. The default settings, yes, and the lens flare filter.
Stop screen sharing. But so echoing everyone, the lighting is really lovely in the shot. Did a really good job of balancing flash and ambient.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the tiniest nitpick, but like you get some ghosting on her hand from like her hand moving faster than the how much your flash could stop, because I imagine in this light you're probably shooting close to full power and it's not able to stop the motion well enough to really give a solid line. But that's a pretty nitpicky thing. You could technically like Photoshop some of that ghosting out, but that's a pain in the ass. Other thoughts. I think my other major one I have is on the posing. We already talked about the cape, and I agree there, but I think also I just think her pose feels really rigid. If you follow her leg that's on the ground up to her head, it's just completely, her shape is completely straight. Admittedly, she has areas branching off, but like her main form is this straight line, and I think which is kind of makes for an uninteresting pose. Then combined from the fact that her arms form another completely straight line, like add like a little bit more bend in the wand, the elbow that's holding the wand, and then a little bit more bend in the elbow that's back, and you end up with a breaking up that straight line, and it'll feel more natural and end up feeling a lot better. But I think what could be interesting is, I think this pose, I want to see it on her tiptoe, not flat-footed.
Yes. I was about to say, to help alleviate some of this, I think just even her right foot being on her tippy toe would help a lot. Just kind of elevate her off the ground.
Yeah, I think as it is right now, it being flat-footed kind of kills the dynamic nature of it. And honestly, instead of cape flipping, I'd almost have her like try to pop up on her own and see how that motion would look. Sometimes it can look like crap. But sometimes that motion can end up feeling a lot more natural. But like overall though, the lighting and the very subtle toning makes this picture like it's a very, very good picture outside of the lens flare.
You're so salty.
Sorry. Any final thoughts on this one?
No. I think it's beautiful. And I've liked seeing the different photos that you've submitted.
Yeah,
for our different
it's been
things.
great.
It's very enjoyable.
Keep doing it. Keep going.
Keep doing it. Keep sending us shit. Yeah.
Okay. On to the next one.
2K17 Sarah. All
Okay,
right.
let's move on to Liz's shot.
Fish me. Your turn.
Wait, is it my turn?
Yeah.
Oh, damn. I'm just like sitting here like, oh, it's a photo.
It's your turn.
I think this is, looking at this shot, I think it's a really solid base for a shot that's just asking for like some subtle tweaks that would really put it over the top. So kind of to get into my kind of going this in order, compositionally, I think it's really nice. I think having her towards the center, surrounded by these grass and those purple flowers, is really nice. Kind of frames her really well. Gives her a really nice focal point. I do think we have a bit too much headroom on the top of this image. I think if you cropped this down a little bit and made it by like 16 by 10 or a 16 by 9 aspect ratio, it would feel a little bit better. I also feel like the shot is leaning a little bit.
Is what? I didn't hear that.
Leaning.
Oh, leaning.
I personally like that.
Feel like it's just it's not too strong. But I think more so the headroom is the probably the only compositional frame thing that I have to say with this. This shot is asking to be shot with a shallower depth of field. I don't know what equipment you have, and maybe this photographer was limited and had to work with this really wide depth of field. But like, I feel like to kind of get a dreamy or ethereal.
Don't say No.
look to this. Having a shallower depth of field would really help kind of give that kind of more magical look. I don't think you need it to be super bokeh crazy, but I feel like this shot looks like it was shot at like f8.
Yeah.
Which is like I don't know what you were shooting on, but I imagine it can go lower than f8. Like I imagine you could probably whatever you have shot this on probably at least 3.5 is like the lowest and get a bit more depth shallow depth of field in this. What also could help with that is if you brought your camera lens a little bit lower to allow more fall off of the background, so that you had allowed the depth of field, like the actual depth of field in the photo, to go further off, which would allow for more blur. But then I think the other area that really needs a bit of work in this shot is the lighting and the color. I'll do the color first. She feels really, really red, like this almost like almost purplish magenta-y hue to her, which it kind of ends up feeling really unnatural. And I think that's that could be super easily fixable by even like maybe just the color balance or color temp on your this shot was off, and like adjusting it from like magenta to green a little bit could help fix that in like Lightroom. But like the color on her just feels really off. It's almost like it's not quite sunburny. It's a bit too like purple to be quite the sunburn feel, but it's getting in that area. Her skin really doesn't have that kind of like orangish tone. It's color sample it, and it's in the pinks and the purple tones, and like even in some areas is starting to get into the blues. It's really, really cool in terms of color temperature. And I think fixing doing something to correct that could really help. And then the overall, like, I think the lighting on her face is actually really nice. The dappled lighting along her arm is pretty distracting, though. But I think even just like upping the brightness of this photo would help a lot. Her eyes end up feeling very much in shadows. So I'd like to see the brightness of this shot popped, especially like, you know, we talked about vignette in a previous photo not working very well, but I think this is a candidate for a photo where a vignette would help it a lot. Like brighten the photo and then apply a vignette, and I think you end up having a stronger shot. Okay, I've been talking for a long time. Someone else interrupt me.
I wanted to talk about the pose really fast. I just want to answer this one comment. Okay, so this looks like a Sakizo fairy design to me, and with Sakizo comes a stupid amount of detail put into the costume, and I think it would have been nice if her upper body had been rotated just slightly more towards the camera, just so we can see more of the costume. Because it looks like there's a lot of detail put into that bodice, and I wish I could just see more of it. I think that also has to do with the fact that so much of the grass is also in focus, like what we were talking about earlier. But I think just a little bit of rotation would have helped that a little bit. I hate to say it, but I'm going to bring up the word ethereal because we were talking about a shallow depth of field, and I think with this costume, it would be nice to have a more shallow depth of field to help boost that dreamy aesthetic. There we go.
So, I did like what I'd say is a 5-second edit on this. Just
Okay, just
brightened it, really quick and sloppy color balance, and added a cropped in on the headroom and added a vignette. And once again, super sloppy attempt at it, but I think it really kind of helps give a little extra feel to this. It ends up like, I think that the brightness on her, like, just to turn those layers on and off, I think having her be that bright focal point instead of like her kind of matching in brightness a lot more to the grass around her, changing that to have her pop out more helps a lot. Like I said, this is super sloppy, so I did it real quick, but just trying to kind of make my briefcase.
I like it.
Mallo?
Yeah, I was actually in Lightroom with it, trying to see if okay. This photo is something that I'm really into, like fairy tale stuff. This is totally something that I would shoot location, like hands down. I agree with Sarah. One, I wouldn't have, even though this kind of looks like it's on a hill or something like that, which I kind of like the angle because I can feel that hill vibe from it. I know it's hard to get the model. The model naturally is going to go with gravity, and they're going to hunch over if they're, on a hill like that. It's really about directing them, getting them the arch. If she would have arched her back, she wouldn't look so slumped, which she just it makes her look kind of uncomfortable, in my opinion. We would have seen more detail of that, the torso there, and it would just looked more, I don't know, just more majestic, like just not so hunched over and uncomfortable. I personally would have wanted to see more of the nature around it. I wouldn't want to crop in unless you're doing like a series where it's, it's this multiple photos in one post where you're getting some detail going in. I personally like more of the environment, and I think we wouldn't have had that the cape or whatever, I'm not saying it right, I'm sorry, chopped off there.
I think taking this wider could be effective. Yeah. I just thought there was too much headroom in it.
No, I totally agree. If it's going to be this close, I agree that should have came in more. The shadows most definitely need to go up because, when I bring them up, I see so much more of her eyes, which is, as you guys have said in your previous episodes, very important is the eyes in photos. Definitely would have went in on some frequency separation, touched up a little bit, toned down the reds on her back, because her back and her shoulders very, very red, where it's more paler towards her chest and everything. And something that I've gotten feedback from cosplayers that they appreciate, especially at cons like Colossal, where you're melting, or Otakon, is touching up the makeup, getting rid of that black under the eyes, because it happens, and you can't, they can't help that. So those are things that I would really focus on, especially for these kind of fairy tale detailed costumes, is makeup's a big part of it. Seeing a lot of the detail, and brightening it up so we can see that detail. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I would echo that as well. I think, we've gotten off in a lot of the details here, but I'd like to go back and say that I think what you have in this photo is a pretty solid base that, some minor tweakings in post could really bring this photo out more. So,
yeah.
If it were me, I would say go back into this photo, give it a little bit more editing work, and I think this photo could be improved a lot. So, sometimes when we're talking about these shots, and we did talk about posing in different camera angles and what have you, but I think this shot could be improved just on the editing side very quickly. So I wouldn't I wouldn't take that are, while yes, there's posing areas that we'd improve in other areas that happen while you were taking the shot that you could have improved. I also think, trying to go back into like Lightroom or Photoshop and play with this shot more, you could potentially really breathe a lot more life into this image.
I'm going to also say real quick, from someone who has taken pictures of Link, who's taken pictures of like Demon Oikawa, where they have the ears, the fake ears. It is so important to blend them. I can see the line from her real ear to the fake one, and I know that's something like you're totally not thinking about, and from far away you don't really notice it. But it is pretty easy to match the colors. I know that it's hard to and expensive to get the fake ears that are completely your skin tone, but just even if you can't really get them spot on, getting rid of that line that disconnects them, that's something I learned the hard way, because I sent some Link pictures before and they're like, my ear. And they expect that of me, and I was like, oh, I totally didn't think about it, but it takes away from it, and it's like you can tell it's fake. But that's a nitpicky thing as well for like elf ears and stuff.
Totally agree. I honestly
I'm gonna bring that up.
I'm a particular fan of elf ears, so like when I see that in shots, it really isn't a hard Photoshop fix. Maybe if you're new to Photoshop, it can seem pretty intimidating, but it really is not. Okay.
Cool.
Okay, ready to move on to the next one?
Yes.
Okay. This is... Who's up next? I always forget the order of these.
Was Sarah? I don't know.
Mallo.
Oh, is it me? Wait, where are we at?
This is Lou. Oh, I don't know how you pronounce that first name. I feel stupid.
Lou?
Lou?
Lutza?
Lou? Whatever. Hello,
Is it?
You.
It's Lonk. It's a Lonk cosplayer.
Wait, hold on.
You look at the stream, Mallo, if you have it up.
On my phone. I don't know how to put it up.
We're just gonna. If you got it up on a computer, we'd just break the stream. We'd be done.
Oh, is it the close up, like the half?
Yeah, it's that
Yeah.
the half face shot.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
Long.
Jeez, Mallo.
My boy, Long.
It's Lonk.
Okay, I'm good. I'll start talking about Legend of Zelda anyway.
I'm trying really hard.
So Breath of the Wild. Okay, anyway.
Breath of the Wild, you guys. Great game.
Well, I'm be a little biased because, A+ because of what it is, but I need a second. Okay. For me, this shot, what throws me off and kind of actually messes with my eyes is the focus. Because it's like the tip of the prop is super sharp, and then it goes down and blurred. I'm not even sure how this happened. You guys probably know, you're more technical with the stuff than I would be, but then the eye is in focus, which is great. But it's like I don't know where my eyes are supposed to go first, kind of thing. Like I don't know what's supposed to be in focus. Yeah. I think that's my first big thing.
It's interesting.
I think it's almost like 50-50. Like half the picture's the arrow, and then half the picture's the cosplayer. I think that's where my eye struggles a bit.
It's interesting for those who watched the last stream, and Sarah, you remember, I don't know, Mallo, if you watched the entirety of the last one, but there was another shot by the same photographer who did the same style of photo with this half
is the same
face
person?
shot. It's
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
I feel like if this was, I actually did a picture like this of someone. Okay, it doesn't matter. But I did a half face, but it was Oh, it was Susie. It was like a hack or dot hack thing, but it was basically half the face and the shoulder. I didn't have a prop. Like, I just feel like with the prop, I don't. Like, it could have worked. Like, if this would have been like the Master Sword, like it's so plain to me that it would have worked more. This is so much detail that like I almost feel like I want to see it and it not be blurred. If that makes sense. I don't.
The prop.
I think it's also not a recognizable prop for people who haven't.
I'm
played
actually.
it.
It is.
It's the Guardian Arrow.
Oh, yeah, I didn't recognize. I was really confused. I thought it was like a really stubby guardian, like sword or something, or a spear.
No,
and I was
it's
like,
the arrow.
that makes more
The
sense.
Guardian
but
Arrow. Yeah.
It's
Okay, I'm not judging like the prop itself.
Yeah, we don't want to
it's
get
so
into
blurred
that.
and close up, and so that's not my go-to.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that I think the reason we were so confused is because of its positioning and not seeing the rest of the body. The scale is totally thrown off. We can't recognize it as an arrow. It looks far more like it could be supposed to be like a spear or a sword because like it's so big in the frame.
And the other big thing to me is if that prop wasn't there, I wouldn't know this is Link, because it's not because like something's wrong with the wig or anything like that, but I don't see any of the shoulder, none of the costume. I feel like, especially as a fan, I'd want to see more. Yeah. And I know what they were trying to do because I see like I go to movie posters because I like dream to shoot a movie poster for some reason. I'm just always going back to it. But they do stuff like this and it gives you that kind of like, oh crap, like something's about to happen. But like I feel like for this, I'd want to see more so I know who it is and get that feel for the character.
So what I would say is in the other shot that this person submitted last time, that they had that face tattoo. There was a lot of detail in the hat that person was wearing. They had like a frilly neck collar.
Yeah,
collar was the word I was looking for. But here, you really have you have this weapon. And then really on the face, there's not a lot going on. You don't get any really the only parts of the cosplay you get on this outside of the weapon are like makeup and wig. There's like almost no like actual costume in this.
Yeah.
Especially with his new design, all of the detail in his new costume is like the lower half of his body, like where his arrows sit, his belts, his pouches.
It says the girl who is wearing a Breath of the Wild shirt.
Not showing her shirt. I feel again this photo standalone isn't very powerful. I don't know who it is. I might know who it is. Like, I probably would know if I finally figured out what that was, because I guess I didn't know much about the weapons. But if it was in, like, again, a series of photos in one post, then it might have worked. But by itself, I feel like it's lacking. Definitely, even if just some of the shoulder would have been in there, like, it could have worked.
I also don't know if the split directly down the nose is necessarily what works best. I don't know. I've never experimented with this angle, but I almost would like to see a bit more face in it. I don't know if directly down the center is the best way of doing that. I don't really know. I'm just kind of...
I just feel like backing away just to show more would be good. I think because compared to the last shot, because there was so much detail in like the wig and the hair accessories.
For
and
comparison,
like
I'll pull up that shot on the stream just so.
Like that was great for this kind of crop. Like close crops are really hard, especially when there isn't anything to give the viewer context of what you've shot. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was the other shot from the same photographer that we're referencing. But I think the other things I would say after looking at this, I think the background is too bright compared to the face. It's about the same brightness. I would like the background to be a little darker.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too deep into this, but couple other thoughts. I feel like the eye makeup feels kind of off to me. I don't know if that's the shot, like the angle at all, just not working with how that specific bit of eyeliner was applied. But it just kind of feels funky to me. Other things I would do is like, in terms of like retouching, I think this shot needs a bit more retouching. Kind of smooth out the shadows on the face. Like, I don't think you should touch the textures all that much. The texture looks really good, but like, there's a bit of like the shadows on the cheek, and I'd fill in the eyebrow a little bit to kind of balance out the eyebrow, because it kind of feels like, and it's probably just because the hair got bumped over the course of time. It kind of gives like that kind of feeling like there's a bit of a cut into that eyebrow. I think that could potentially be well, it could definitely be fixed in Photoshop and look take out that distraction. And this maybe is me not knowing makeup all that well. It feels like the lipstick has started to wear. Is that just me?
Yeah. No, it almost looks like, to me, it looks like what happens when you wear a tint, like a lip tint, and it fades throughout the day, because it's usually much more concentrated in the center of your lip, and then it'll fade on the outside first. So yes, you are correct. That looks a little off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely, like, and that's something you could fix in Photoshop. The reason I was kind of hesitant in bringing that up, because I don't, makeup is obviously not an area I know much about. Okay, and then the last thing that I want to bring up, and this is maybe a bit of controversy, and we talked about this before. Mallo brought this up about tattoos, is not removing the tattoos if you feel like that's part of the cosplayer and they want it in here, but the nose ring is part of what really throws me off on this photo and thinking that it's Link, because it's such a close to the face shot and we have very little contextual pieces to know that it's Link other than really this the arrow, and I think that the addition of that nose ring really adds a bit. I don't know. I don't know what the cosplayer is, whether they probably wanted it in, but like that type of nose ring, I've shot many cosplayers that have had that nose ring, and they just usually tuck it up into their nose for the shot. And once again, I don't know what the cosplayer wanted for this, but that would be like an ideal candidate, I think, for taking the shot with that ring flipped up and out of the shot, and kind of brings it a bit more contextually to being Link.
And that's something that like I try to stress to people is like to be communication is so key for every kind of relationship. So especially between like the cosplayer and photographer, like I always ask, hey, like, and it depends too, because if it's my project, if it's something I want to do, I'm gonna do what I want. I'm gonna tell them, hey, this is what I want. This is the concept I want. I want Link to look just like this, just like the game. I'll just use Link as an example. But if it's something you're doing paid, like a paid shoot or a project that's both of yours, that's where you need to be like, hey, are you wanting this to be more accurate? Or are you wanting this concept? It's got to be something that I always feel weird to just take things out because I don't want to offend people. But usually I take care of that during the shoot. I ask those questions so that I don't need to message them later like, hey, I'm about to Photoshop this out of your nose or this off of your hip. That's something you can take care of and honestly come to some kind of terms. But I agree that in this case, the nose ring threw me off. The contact's pretty cool because it kind of gives me that idea of what they're probably trying to go for with like Link and the whole Guardians and stuff. But that also was something I'm like, I don't remember. His eyes don't look like that in the game. So that's something else that threw me off. But I think if this would have been out more and maybe the nose ring was gone, the eye would have been like, oh, that's cool. That's a cool concept. Like, he's, like, connected to all that, like, the Sheikah stuff. That's what I kind of feel I was getting.
That's what I was getting, too.
Yeah. So,
TLDR. Not enough context in this photo for us to know that it's Link. The crowd's a little too close.
Especially if you don't know Breath of the Wild and you haven't played it at all.
You should.
Sorry. Yes. Well, that's correct.
Play it, guys.
But if you don't, I don't think you recognize this as a Link at all.
No, I mean the weapon is very particular for that game. I mean, these weapons were literally designed for this universe, and the only reason I recognize it is because I literally just played it yesterday.
Nerd. Just kidding.
What? Because I'm a nerd?
No, I noticed it, but like I guess I'm just not as familiar with some of those weapons. But
that's okay.
Just picking on you, Sarah.
Yo, I'm looking to make a Link. Okay, I've been doing some research, so that doesn't help.
Also, all coming from the girl who's wearing a Breath of the Wild shirt.
I know,
it's
right?
My favorite.
Okay. Any other thoughts on this? I think we've talked about this one for a good while, so I think we probably move on.
Play the game. The end.
Play the game, and the colors were good. The color tones were good. I liked it.
Yes.
Okay. Let's move on to Neil's shot. If he hopefully he's still here and not drunk from all the times we've sent ethereal.
Neil, are you dead? Please send us a message so we know you're alive. It's me. Although I feel kind of weird because I actually I was talking to him about this before he submitted it.
Trying to bribe the judges. I see how this works.
What?
We're on to you, Neil.
Wait, hang on. Okay, I'm done. Okay.
Sarah, Neil. I think you're obligated to start this one.
I know. Okay, so it's just a coincidence that I've been starting on people that I know, just to let everyone know. Okay.
She's getting paid off.
So, the one thing, it's weird because like I said, I've already talked to him about this image before, so I feel kind of weird like critiquing it again. I'll bring up things that I haven't talked to him about. I kind of wish that this photo, I think there's a little too much space above her head. I kind of wish it had been. What are you grinning at?
Nothing. Sorry. I just think it's very ethereal.
This photo is very...
The background is just really ethereal. I don't know what you're talking about, Sarah.
Y'all are too much.
Sorry, I'll stop.
Anyway, yeah, so I think there's too much negative space above her head. I kind of wish this had been taken, like, at a lower angle, or if you would, I don't know how much room you had to, like, if you were cropping into her or not, or you cropped in, like, lower. I think it just feels very empty up there with no really any intent to it. So I kind of wish that was taken a little lower. This is like, I'm going to just get to the nitpicky things that I like picking on you. The wig, I wish that her like wig on the right side of her had been adjusted, because the one on the left side of her face is so perfect, and then the one on the right, it's clearly she must have sat down and then the wig shifted while she moved. I kind of wish that had been cleaned up before you shot this photo. But knowing you probably could have just composite a new wig in here, because you are a compositing freak and you're so good at it. Then again, with the wig on her left arm, I wish that had been moved out of the way. I don't know why. This distracted me the first time you showed me this photo, and it still kind of is distracting to me, is the wig hairs on her left arm, only because everything else is so
Agreed.
like pristine and clean. I wish that had just been shooed away a little bit. I love the work you did on her skin. It looks super, super clean. And yeah, I don't, again, I've already talked to him about this, so I want your guys' 2 cents.
Mallo, you want to go or should I?
I'll be shorter. Just kidding.
So does that mean I should go first to you?
I don't have too much on this. I agree with the what would you call these? Just these pieces of hair up front, little ponytail thingies. I feel like this character, definitely both of them being perfect, like perfectly straight, just kind of that like graceful, perfect kind of look. Also, trying to zoom in here. It looks like you attempted to color that corner by her ear purple. I just feel like, I don't know how the wig works, but maybe it was supposed to be over a little more. I'm not sure how it worked, so I don't want to be like super picky on that. But the purple, I kind of feel like could have maybe been touched up more on the corners. I
agree with you. I think it was probably her hair, real hair was exposed, and you can tell there's a little bit by, just the teeniest bit by her ear that hasn't been colored. I think for the most part, it's a fairly decent touch up on it.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
It could be still a bit improved.
I like the vibrant colors. Very, very nice. I probably would have toned down the yellows a little bit. They're kind of washed out up there. But if you would have cropped this photo to take away some of that, maybe it wouldn't have mattered. I'm not a huge fan of a lot of yellow in the greenery. I don't know if this was added either, but the little spots of green in the back, they almost look like fireflies or something like that. I like that idea. If that was added in. I'm not sure.
I think it was. I think it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. I actually did something similar to one of my photos. It's like a new thing I like to do is do the little firefly kind of effect. But the skin is great. I would have probably also enhanced her eyes more. I would have brightened up her eyes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What I tend to do, I know I can't screen share. If I can, I'm not going to attempt it because then this whole thing will crash. But if you look in her eyes where the white is that reflects, something that I typically do is I brighten that up first. And then the lightest part of the eye, the lightest part of the brown is where I'll lighten it up and then keep the corners dark so it stays real. I also would have probably brightened up her waterline a little bit, because it just brightens it. And you can also like brighten up the corners of her eyes, because you can see that she was trying to get that like shiny effect on the corners, which naturally in real life brightens the eyes. So enhancing that would have just maybe stepped it up. But besides that, this photo's pretty good with the lighting and everything. I love it.
Yeah, I would totally echo the eyes are the area where I feel like the retouching missed the most. I think her eyes really need to get brightened up, because like right now as things are, like when you're viewing this at, taking the entire photo in, her eyes almost look black. You kind of lose any detail in the eye, and I think that really needs to get brightened up.
She has pretty brown eyes too. Yeah. I'd love to see that.
Okay, I'm gonna go into nitpick city here. It's gonna be a real fun time. So I know they've both Mallo and Sarah have really complimented the skin retouching, but I think you could take it further. What I mean by that is there's certain areas where I think need to get cleaned up more. On her left hand, I think there's some like veins or like crease marks that I think could be cleaned up. Her hands look very the back of her hand that's on her waist there looks very rough compared to everywhere else on her body. And I think smoothing that out could really help bring a bit more cohesive feel. I also think the color of her skin is very inconsistent. Like, the color on her stomach is kind of a reddish orange, but then by her chest, it's by her collarbone, it's very magenta. So like making that color consistency of her skin more consistent would help. Bless you.
Thank you. Sorry.
I agree with everyone. What everyone else has said. I would love to see this crop taken in a bit from the top, just enough so you get rid of where you can see the sky. I don't think that white sky is helping you at all. I think it's very uninteresting.
Yeah.
And then let's talk about the color of the background. I know that yellow look was added in kind of to like sun glow effect, but I think that makes the greens in that kind of the middle right of the picture in the background look really dull. So I would love to see either that background taken more yellow, so it's almost all that kind of golden yellow, or it's all green. I would be really interested to see it more green because that green will complement the red really well. And I think could help the photo pop more if you didn't have it be nearly as yellow. Other thoughts, that sliver of, I assume it's water that's coming into this photo. I don't know if I like it. I think it's kind of a distraction where my eye ends up. Might be a pain, but I would contemplate maybe compositing that out, or not.
It just so happens that Neil is the king of compositing photos.
Yeah, I would probably get rid of that.
Neil, just put in a different background, is what we're saying.
I don't think he needs a different background, Sarah.
Back there. I want to see a volcano.
I mean, if
can we have dragons in the background? Can we have Godzilla?
Yeah. I would like to also see a bit more, I think, dodging and burning on. We talked about it for the eyes, but I think like on her face in general, I think could use a bit more dodging and burning to help it pop a little bit more. That kind of like firefly effect. It's kind of a bokeh-y, sparkly overlay that you put on. I really like. I think it needs to not be on her. Like, there's a little bit on her hair and in that like headdress area.
Oh yeah.
I think it shouldn't be on there. It should only be in the background. It feels weird having it on her. Mm-hmm. So like mask that out. And another thing, and this is really nitpicky, there's on her chest where the kind of fold line of the fabric falls.
I know exactly where you're going.
There's a strong shadow there, and my eye gets drawn there really strongly because of it, and I don't want my eye to be drawn there. Like that's not a good focal point. I want my focal point to be on her face, not there. And I get that's kind of how the fabric fell and how that shadow fell, and you didn't have much control over that. But I think really lightening that shadow to kind of get rid of where that shadow is really could help, because it's on a pure white surface, so that shadow being as dark as it is really draws my eye in there. Now that we just went through all those nitpicks, I'd like to say I really do like this image.
We love it. That's why we're being so nitpicky.
Last comment. Her open hand feels weird. It's kind of her finger positions feels a little funky to me. With like kind of her pointer finger being very separated from her middle and finger and Like, just it doesn't feel like a very clean hand pose, which I get is super hard to get people to pose right. I've been trying for a while to figure out the correct way to like get people to have that really nice like princess hand.
See, I grab people's hand, but I ask permission.
Yeah. So I've found it's pretty easy if you ask them to make a fist and then slowly open their hand, and that usually gives like a good shape with their fingers all aligned like that. And right now this has kind of got like the pointer fingers out more, and like that's just not a real nice hand position. I don't know how to say that without sounding bad. So that's super nitpicky and is not something even my that's something that I get to eventually after digesting this image for a really long time. So I don't hold that very strongly against this image. Yeah, I think we've delved pretty deep into this one, so probably time to move forward on to the next one. You guys cool with that? Any other thoughts, or move on?
It sucks. No, I'm kidding. We're good.
Wow, rude. Okay, the next one's going to be Panda Riot.
I got it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like I think in the order I'm next, but I just talked for a shit ton of time, so someone else should take this.
I can start.
Yeah, go for it.
Like this, I think this is from RWB Wide. I think it's supposed to be Pyrrha, which makes me this makes me really sad.
Yeah, it's totally Pyrrha.
Okay, I was like, this kills me a little bit, but no pun intended.
Not as much as it kills Pyrrha.
Stop! I want to say right off the bat, I really like the concept behind this photo. Like, I feel like you don't see this done a lot, and that's kind of like the cosplayer's reflection off of, a glass pane or like from a mirror or something. And I think this one's done really well. I like how symmetrical it is and how she's kind of like reflecting on herself. At least that's what I'm getting from it. So compositionally, I really like it. Actually, now I'm starting to wonder is this a composited reflection or is this a real reflection now that I'm looking at it? I don't know. I can't even tell.
I have a hard time telling. Sarah, you keep talking. I'm gonna figure this out.
Yeah, it's too perfect. I don't know.
No, it's got to be fake. Because like I looked at the halo. That doesn't make sense.
Well, I know, but there's like, but you see that black bit by her ponytail? You don't really see that on the right.
I'm bringing this.
I mean, I've gotten reflections pretty close to that.
Have you? Yeah.
I caught one.
Please tell us, photographer. Anyway, I think what I would have really liked to see here, I think because this photo is so it's very moody, like in a good way. I wish the color grading would have been taken like a step further. This is kind of like a biased opinion. The reds feel a little too magenta for me, and Pyrrha's color palette is very much like that true, like more like yellowy red, if that makes any sense. I would have liked to see the colors played around with a bit more with this one.
So I opened this up in Photoshop. Either this is real or a super convincing job of doing that reflection.
I think it's real now that I'm comparing the two sides.
Because like there is distortion in it that like if it was just flipped and reflected wouldn't be the case. So I think it is in fact a real reflection.
Yeah, now that I'm zooming in. Yeah. Oh my god, I found something that I'm gonna point out. It's small.
She zoomed in
small.
And
it's her badge, her con badge is on her waist.
Oh, I didn't even. Where's that? Oh, on the other side. Okay.
Yeah. And now that I see it, I see it.
And
so
you can
next
see
time,
it twice.
I know. Yeah, so next time just take time to shop that out. Sometimes you just forget that you're even wearing it. I've done that before, honestly. So, like, no biggie. Just look, if you see that.
I've taken to it to now being like one of the very first things I do before I shoot with someone at the con is asking them to hide their badge or take it off. Because inevitably, if you don't, you'll get it in the photo. Sorry. Continue, Sarah.
Oh no, I'm done. I'm done for now.
I would have moved. I would have had I know that doesn't help once you're done shooting, but it would have been nice if more of her eyes would have been showing. I mean, it kind of gives the mood still. I can tell enough that, her eyelashes. But it would have been nice because a step further for this concept, which would have been cool, would have been if, like, the reflection was looking up or, like, looking at... You know what I'm saying? Like, it was two different things going on with the reflection. That's just a different concept altogether. But that would have been kind of cool. So keep that in mind if you are watching this or will. Fun things to do with reflections that I've seen is, like, making the reflection either looking at the model when the original model is looking down or something like that. Mm-hmm. It can also do... I think Sailor Moon, it does that. She does that with her reflection. But that would have been cool. But, like, I would have liked to seen more of her eyes. And maybe brought the picture out a little tiny bit more. Not a fan of when, like, things are cropping out, like for example, the wings, how it's, like, kind of chopped off there. I'm notorious in the past for doing that, and I tried to not. Because it just, I don't know. I just feel like I want to see the whole thing. Unless it was being brought in more. I don't know. But besides that, I don't know this character, so I can't really say anything on the colors or anything. But I like that it's cooler toned, not super warm. I probably would have brought more blues or something in the shadows. I think I would have done more with the shadows maybe. But besides that, I love the whole mood of this photo. It's pretty great.
Yeah, I think I will echo everyone. I think the overall feel of the shot's really good. And I think a lot of the comments I'm going to say suck because any retouching you have to do twice. So take that with the retouching comments with a major grain of salt because it's a pain in the ass. I, looking at this, don't like the headband and the lines going up for, like, her fluffy halo at all. I think it kind of kills a bit of that feeling for me, knowing that this halo is put on. Like, it's just this accessory being worn and not this thing that's happening in the photo floating above her head. I would love to see it photoshopped out. That said, I'm aware that when you have to do it, it'd be a pain to do in the first place, and then you have to do it twice. So, yeah, sucks. So, that's why I'm kind of a little hesitant on that. Same thing with... kind of how the right by her stomach, how her costume is kind of coming out to a sharp point. I think that feels a little awkward, and I don't think that's necessarily what the cosplay is intending to do. I think it's supposed to keep closer to her body and not come out at that little peak right by where her belly button would be. I'd probably go in and liquefy that down so that bit. Yeah, so it's not coming out and follows her body a little closer. Other thoughts here. Another area that would be super pain to Photoshop is the elastic bands holding her wings on. Like, I'm fully aware of the pain that this would be. I don't know if I would do it. I think it just would be really cool to remove the signs of the things that are holding up these wings and the halo to kind of really make it feel more impactful. There's other little areas I'd Photoshop out, like by her chest there's that little black triangle that's showing right above where her cosplay cuts off. I'd want that to be photoshopped out because it's black next to white and gold. I see it really well. And that and the overall color toning. I think like actually darkening this image could be really neat. Bringing it a bit darker and then especially in the shadows and then adding a bit of color. I think blue, like Mallo mentioned before, could be really cool. Yeah. So I think that's all I have.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else either. It's
right.
solid.
Move on to the next one. So this is Rawls, the next one. I'm going to be right back while you guys can start digging into this one.
Okay.
Bye.
I'll be back in a minute.
See you never.
All right.
Mel, you want to start?
Yeah, which one are we on now?
We're on Raul Sanchez.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's what I thought.
I don't know what English is. I don't know how to read anything today. I'm sorry, guys.
It's okay. It's late, dude. All right. Give me a second to look at it here. Okay. I feel like with this one, I like the... I'm okay with the angle. I feel like since everything else is so dark that the highlights and stuff should be brighter, like illuminating more because the light's coming from the, I'm assuming that's like a video game or something she's playing there. Yeah, I feel like it should be way brighter. So we get more detail of her face, and it's just, realistically, if you're in a dark arcade, that would be so much brighter on you. I think it'd give more life to the photo. I just don't like how dark it is. I don't mind the back being so dark, and also I feel like the colors are very stale. Like, if it's going to be that dark, the shadows definitely should have some color to them. And especially when you think of arcades, you're thinking of like all the purples and the blues and the when I think of arcades, I think of like No Game, No Life, all those vibrant colors and stuff like that. I would have incorporated that in there for sure.
Well, it's funny that you say that because Persona 5's like color aesthetic is, because this is what this is from, is very colorful and bright. And I think to play off of that more for this image would have helped it a lot. Because it's already kind of almost there, but not quite. So I think playing around, like Mallo said, like adding colors to the shadows, I think even playing up the glow of the arcade system somehow more would be interesting. Yeah. I want to talk about the lighting a little bit, and I think I'm not really sure what could have been. I think maybe just like lifting her head up and jutting her chin out a little more. Unfortunately, the shadow on her face and her neck almost makes it look like the cosplayer doesn't have a neck, which isn't that's not flattering really on anyone. So I think just to be more aware of like those types of things when you're shooting, like the way the cosplayer is positioning their head, like can they, this one photographer explained it to me, it's called ducking. Because you're like basically like you're jutting like your head out like a duck does like when they walk. So she called it ducking, and she told me that that's a really good tip / thing to have cosplayers do when they're posing, so you don't lose your neck, like in this case with the shadows.
Yeah.
I think I'm wondering if this is kind of a pain and kind of nitpicky, but I'm wondering if shopping out the lights, the lights for the arcade center or wherever this was taken, like shopping those out, those orange things, and then cleaning up the ceiling, how that would look. Because right now I'm kind of like, I see the background elements, but they're not really there for like a reason necessarily. So I'm kind of intrigued what this would look like cleaned up a little bit more in the background.
Yeah, I agree. That would have been, I feel like I mean, everyone has their own technique, but you could easily get rid of those. Since you already got that black background, it'd be easy to get rid of those. I'm not super like I don't usually use a lot of effects or like bokehs and all that stuff. I've been trying to use it more, but I'm really bad at like making it look real. I'm practicing. But I feel like even like placing some layers of like wispy. You've done it with Stella's photos before, where that like those wispy rays of light and stuff like that. That could have even been something. That would have been something cool just to give it more of a. Because I've played Persona before, like it just give it more of that feel. I almost feel like this could have been a cool shot, more of an aerial shot too. Maybe seeing the screen a little bit and looking up would have been kind of cool too.
I agree.
Yeah. I'm the worst to like give critiques on indoor stuff because I'm like I have no skills with that.
Yeah. That being said, though, because this is a Persona 5 shoot, I think kind of like what Mallo was saying earlier, just kind of like playing up those funky aesthetics. Like, if you're going to shoot like in an arcade, grab that arcade aesthetic and just kind of like go for it. You know, get a little weird with it.
Yeah.
I want to get into some nitpicky stuff in terms of like retouching. I noticed that her bra strap on her left shoulder is showing, the black strap. It would have been nice to see that cleaned up a bit. I think that's for me, really. And there's like some wig hairs. Again, these are things that you don't notice when you're shooting, so I totally understand. But just being aware of like, is there like weird wig bangs hanging in their faces that shouldn't be? So there's like a strand right here going right through her face in the front. Would have been nice to see that pushed aside maybe a bit. Other than that, though, I think it's fun.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else?
No.
Okay. Andrew had to take a phone call, so he said to just go on without him. So we're going to do that. Next, we have a photo by Travis, which I'm pretty excited about because I thought this photo is so beautiful.
Back just in time.
Oh, hell yeah, you here? We moved on to the next photo. Do you want
I heard
to...
you. No, we're fine.
Okay, we're good?
Let's go over to Travis's shot.
Okay, do you want to start?
Sure. I think this photo is super close to being great.
Yep.
Those scenes living.
It is... God, like... It is so close to being excellent. But I think it's flirting with that line a bit too much. And it all has to do with the coverage of the leaves in front of her.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're covering her face just a bit too much. I like them covering her face. I love the idea. I love the toning on them. I kind of love that subtlety. I don't like how the one that's coming, the biggest one that's covering like her cheek and her jawline there.
Yeah.
That is the part that kills me. It's just
it's a little too opaque for me.
Yeah. It's hard because like that coverage is so hard to find where the best spot is. The lighting on her face is awesome. The way, especially her left eye looks and the connection with the camera is awesome. The highlight, the catch light in her eye is really pretty. That natural light gives it just, her eye is totally popping out, and like you got this awesome like headdress that has so much detail, and the purples, just those cool colors go great with that green, and like there's so much to love about this image, and I just think it's like if that was just a little less covering her face, I think this image would be pretty close to
dope
perfect.
As fuck. Like, this is something I would see in like a very like hip, like fashion photo magazine or something. Like the color grading style, it like I just love. It's so different. Like I'm usually not a. Me and the color green just don't get along. I just don't really like green. That's why I'm always adding like so many blues to mine. But like the fact the majority of this photo is green and you somehow made it work with purple, like and yellow.
The color grading really reminds me of Mallo's color grading.
It does remind me of Mallo.
Well, I think this is my favorite photo.
I mean, I can see.
Gee, I wonder why.
Yeah.
I feel like the green is just, I mean, let's just take a moment. So good. Green is one of my favorite colors. It's not my favorite color, but when it comes to photography, it's one of my favorites. Plus, I'm just a nature freak. So, but I love that tone. That's honestly, you've made it even better than what I can do most of the time. Like, I try to get that. I don't know. You can just match anything with that color, but I agree with how much it's covering the face. It makes her right eye, which would be her left for her, a little too dark. Something else to keep in mind when you're shooting. I feel like her expression's a little off. Like it almost looks like she was about to talk. That's so nitpicky, and just mood-wise, I kind of would have liked it if not necessarily her mouth was shut, but like it almost looks like it's mid her talking maybe, which to me I'm really big about getting a certain mood too, so it just depends on what you're trying to get out of it. But I like also, hold on. I don't know if it's naturally like this, but I know there is kind of like a sort of a vignette going where you darken the corners and centered it on her. This is a really good example of like making the subject the brightest point, especially in like a wooded area. It gives that very like that feel that you're going for, where it's almost like the viewer is like sneaking a peek of her. Like, you know, you feel like you're in that greenery, getting that peek of the model. So that's really great. I think her skin's a little too yellowish. Maybe would have
slight bit
touched on that a little bit, yeah. But I mean, that purple with that green sun is amazing, beautiful, stunning. That's all I got for you.
I've got a color theory on greens, and why I hate greens that we capture in camera, but how like greens like this can be so pretty. Like you're almost never pulling the pressing the shutter and getting greens that look like this ever, because I feel like greens that we find in nature, and honestly these greens are everywhere, are far more yellow than they are green.
Yeah.
Like all the plant life and stuff, it's a very saturated green, and it's a very bright green, but it's also a yellowish green. Like usually if you look and you take like the eyedropper tool to most photos that you've taken that have plant life in it, it's that you'll find that it's somewhere between yellow and green, and it's not really a pure green, like kind of I think where our heads think that color is. And I think that's what turns me off of that color, is that we see it so much in our life that when it happens in photos, it's super uninteresting. However, this green is a very kind of like, it's almost starting to get into the blue territory. It's desaturated and dark. And that's not the kind of green you find in your shots normally. And I'm fairly certain that's not how this photo looks at all.
Oh, absolutely not.
It's probably this bright yellowish green that looks ugly and has been toned to look really good. I know because I've done stuff like this, and I'm sure both of us have, the two other people we have here have done stuff just like that. but like the implementation was nailed here. But that was just kind of my theory on greens and kind of why this works so well to take it. It's a green, but it is so different than the green we normally get in photos. So
That's why I'm not appalled when I see it.
Yeah, and the biggest thing, and I don't know, everyone uses different stuff, but I always put things through Lightroom. Like, for example, the Colossal Con fields are yellow. I actually shot something from Final Fantasy and made the field this color, this green. And it wasn't very hard. I mean, really what you're wanting to do is, at least what I can reference from, I don't want to get too off, so sorry, but anyone who's trying to get this color, because I know it's really, really hard, is, at least with Lightroom, you can select the certain colors and mess with them. When it comes to the green, I bring it down to like a turquoise, and then I desaturate it. I go to yellow, get it into the greens, desaturate, because a lot of this is getting it to those turquoise and blues, getting a little green in there and desaturating it actually, and it gives it that dark, like Christmas tree looking green. Like that's what I think of.
It's super I feel like it's counterintuitive to think of it as desaturated, but like that's really how you do it. You have to desaturate a fair amount. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because I've had people message me to do a tutorial how I get greens like that, and I'm like, it took me a long time, and honestly, I follow some other photographers that aren't cosplay, but they show you stuff. Really, you can learn things from other photographers, which is why this little thing that Sarah and Andrew are doing is amazing, because it really, I've learned from others who have critiqued me or said this is how you do it, and you learn from others, and it's amazing what you can learn. And believe me, I've learned from so many people, so just gotta look out there for stuff.
So back onto this photo, thoughts on the crop?
I think it's hard for me to fully say, only because so much of the left side of her face is being obstructed by the green. That being said, I think my initial thought is
I know what I want. I kind of want a 16:9 crop on this.
I was gonna say 16:9.
I'm so worried about losing the detail in that headdress, though.
But I'm wondering if just stepping back a bit, just getting a little more in the shot than a 16:9, because that's what I was gonna say. I think
that's probably what needs to happen.
Yeah, it just needs to be like stepped back a little bit, and then a 16:9 crop I think could be really nice. So this literally looks like something from like a music video or something. Like it's very cinematic. Like the color grading is. The quality of the costume, her makeup is super cool. I mean, it just, yeah.
I opened it up in Photoshop and tried a 16:9 crop, and I really like it, but I think you lose too much of the headdress. I think you really do
need to back up a bit.
And almost with this shot, what you could do, because the sides are so there's so little detail, is you could literally just take this shot, 16:9 it and have it so it's blank space on the sides, and then just transform the sides, because no one's going to be able to tell if you stretch those sides.
Right. No, not at all.
Also, one thing I've noticed going in here is I just feel like this is a grainier picture, but the quality of the grain is really nice, and I'm like, I'm kind of wondering if it was added in post, because it doesn't have the look of like digital grain. It's a real like analog-y looking grain.
It reminds me of film.
Nice. Yeah,
honestly.
That's what I meant by analog. But yeah, it's so I'm kind of like, I'm curious on that, and would love to know.
Also, I really want to know, because I was stalking their Instagram while we were talking, where the hell is this at Colossal Con?
Oh, this was at Colossal?
Yeah.
Huh.
I know.
So my guess with that
Did those
is
be by the fields? Do you think?
so I'm wondering, and my thought is it's maybe in the so if you're by the outdoor water park,
Mm-hmm.
there's some trees in that very kind of if you're leaving the hotel from like the indoor water park and walking towards the fields, it's on the
Mm-hmm.
far end of just about to leave the water park area and
Oh
headed
yeah.
towards the volleyball. I think that might be where it is underneath those trees.
Oh,
I am
interesting.
I'm totally not confident in that at all, but that's just a guess. Because like those trees are
Yeah.
pretty low and easy to walk under, and I've shot there and gotten some nice kind of bokeh with some leaves.
Yeah.
Um,
Once I realized it was shot at Colossal, I was like, "What?"
yeah. Just another nitpicky shot on this or thought on this, and I mean, this is something I think both Sarah and I will get think about as graphic designers. Is I consider the watermark that you put on the photo as part of the piece of the art. Um, and you should strive to give something that integrates well. Right now, the watermark on this is killing me. Um,
Yeah.
you have
The space
such a
isn't.
beautiful shot, and then there's this super boring text watermark that, like, even if you're gonna do this, shrink it down and lower the opacity so it's much less obvious. Right now, it's kind of shouting, and
Yeah.
it's
Agree.
not. It's shouting while being very unattractive.
This
And
photo, I think. I mean, I don't know what the rest of their stuff looks like. Well, I mean, it was when I was browsing before. It's very abstract, like this, like the one we're looking at. And actually, I feel like, I mean, not to get into graphic design here, but since someone brought it up,
sorry.
I feel like, God, I feel like your name could be spelled out in like a serif. I think that could be really elegant and nice. And then kerned out a lot, like the letter
I,
spacing.
yeah, I don't think you have to do much to get an attractive watermark for this, but I think right now it's super shouty and then just this basic text one that's kind of just I'm not feeling it. That
I think it was like 50% smaller.
yeah, even that would help. But also the other thing I feel with these is like if the goal is to with your watermark prevent this image from being copied, I don't think this watermark does that. So you're like right now, I could remove this watermark and you wouldn't know in about 2 seconds. I think probably. Like
Yeah.
let's see, and it's gone.
Oh.
Um, and because it's in this area that has this super blank space, there's no texture there to screw up. So like if it's to protect the image, I don't think it's doing that. So it should feel more artistic. I kind of understand like as much as I hate them, like large watermarks that are the goal is so that the photo cannot be copied and you're really showing the photo more as a proof. But I don't think that's what this is at all. I think it's supposed to be like a tag to show you as the artist.
I
And
agree.
I think this piece is so artistic that you really want to reflect that in your watermark. So that's more like food for thought in turn for you continuing on, unless like I think you should go back and fix it on this image. I think if you're continuing to put out this caliber of work, which this is really nice, that you should consider getting yourself a watermark to match that quality.
I agree.
So we got one more image, and I think we should move on to it.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Okay. Got it.
Cool. I'm just kind of looking at this for a second, and feeling it out.
Dude, I really want to know where this background is.
I know. Okay, so I looked at this, and my first response was, this has to be photoshopped in.
It's
and
not.
Then I look at it, and I'm like, either this is some of the best, like, compositing in I've seen. Like, you did the best job of cutting this person out and putting them in.
With
or
feathers.
Yeah, I'm like, the feathers is what gets me. I don't,
And
that's
the
why.
fur.
Yeah, feathers and fur that's done just supremely well. Like, this is just a background. Like, this is an awesome background for a shot. It gives it such a graphic feel to this image. It's awesome.
Yeah. But I know it's not because I can see fingerprints on the background on the left. So that's my question.
Yeah, I see him there too.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the worst thing in the world, but maybe fix that up real quick. So take
Nah.
Okay.
Anyway.
So do you want to jump into this one, Sarah, since I feel like you were rolling with it?
Oh, apparently it's at a hotel near BCC. I don't know what BCC is. Interesting.
Yeah, well,
okay.
That's an awesome hotel to shoot at, then, if that's the background it has.
Also, the lighting is great. You never have great lighting in a hotel. That's insane. So honestly, I can't I think for me, the more I look at it, I was kind of conflicted. I couldn't quite figure out if I liked it or not. I think for me right now, the Dutch angle is a little too much for me. I think I kind of almost wish she was upright just like a tad bit more. I feel like right now it almost kind of looks like to me that she's kind of like falling forward and she's like getting ready to like hit the ground. So that kind of throws me off a little bit.
By now, I feel like people should know my viewpoint on Dutch angles. If they've watched any of these previous ones, is that if you're gonna do a Dutch angle, have a purpose behind it. Give me a reason as to why you chose to do a Dutch angle. And to me, this seems like there's not a lot of reason for this Dutch angle. Just feels tilted because it's tilted.
Yeah, like I wonder if the tiles didn't reach a very large area on the wall. I'm not sure, and that's why that was done. But yeah.
Yeah. Joe said it in the comment too, and I think that's kind of echoed sentiment. It feels like she's falling.
Yeah, I mean she does. Like I said, it looks like she's falling forward a bit. I think so. I really like the colors in this photo already, but I almost wonder like what it would look like to take the color grading to the next level. Like the colors are already really fun and graphic, but just kind of like not necessarily going like the level that Mallo does, but like it would be interesting to see where this could be taken color wise. I think
I agree because like I feel like the colors in the background are super fun, but like you can tell on the model the colors. There's no color grading on her, and I feel like you could just have a blast on this one because like
seriously, like go to town. Get weird with it.
Yeah. So, looking at this, there's one thing that I feel bothers me in terms of the background, which the background I mostly love. It's the white tile that is directly above her, in between her like ears.
Ugh. Yeah.
And it's the one thing, and as you can see me tilting my head because the Dutch angle just makes me want to tilt my head and look at this. It's just the one thing that throws me off. Like, it just feels like there's a spot missing. I don't know. Because, like, there's white borders between all of the tiles, and then suddenly there's this white one. And I'm just like, what the heck's going on? I don't know what this background looks like in person. I don't know how much room you have to work with. I don't know if there's a bunch of white tiles there and you'd have to, deal. But, like, maybe if you shifted her over, like, 2 tiles and you shot this, and that at least could, you don't have the ears in the space of the white tiles, so you could put, like, another color tile there so that it removes that. Because as it is right now, it's where, like, my attention gets drawn to that white tile.
It's funny. I honestly, like, did not super notice it at first, and now it's, like,
Yeah, I didn't
the
notice
one thing
that.
I can see.
I feel like I would have brought down the oranges in her skin a little bit. I like the background, but I kind of feel like it's so much more brighter purples and reds than, like, her outfit. Like, I almost wish they could be darker, like a darker tone of them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you would go about it. I'd have to mess around with that.
I think you just
This one's tough.
to spend a long time making a selection. I think that's what comes down to. Which I don't think it's actually all that difficult on this one, because you have a really clean background to work against. I mean, I know the feathers might suck a little bit, but it's not, I don't think, going to be all that difficult. It's way easier to have those feathers against this solid background versus them against a more complicated background.
There's the one square over to the right that has these weird circles in them.
Yeah, they almost look like, I almost read them as like bokeh at first, but they're not. They're just these random circles, and they threw me off a little bit.
They're also in the square below her arm too, so it must be like a actual part of the design on the wall, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of this being at the Dutch angle. When I think of a Dutch angle, I always think of like the most appropriate time to use that is like when a character's like shooting a gun and jumping out of the way. Like that kind of angle works for that. That's when I always think of those kind of action shots with this kind of angle. But I would have personally liked to seen more of the costume, and probably not at this angle. But again, like you said, not sure how big the background was.
I super quickly went into this and brought down the saturation of the background and the brightness a little bit to match her a little bit, and I think it works a little bit better. I mean, admittedly, I spent like a minute on this, so I don't know. It was just me brainstorming with this, but and then I brought the kind of some color into the shadows, and I think, God, this is why I don't like Dutch angles, because if you've been watching my video of my camera, keep on tilting my head, because that's what happens with these shots. I think that works a little bit stronger, without having it kind of, that background is, with its saturation, is really screaming, and it's a cool background. But I think maybe just bringing the saturation down just a little bit and darkening it a little bit helps kind of keep it in check, and still making sure that the cosplayer is the focal point of the image and not the background.
Yeah.
Neil, idea for next critique: only Dutch angles. That sounds really bad, because I would have like the biggest kink in my neck after that episode. I'd just be like doing the entire episode like this. Sounds awful.
Just kind of naturally have to.
I don't know. It's like a natural thing. My head just tilts when I look at, like, if it doesn't feel like it's necessary, my head ends up doing that. I don't know. It's weird. It's interesting. Dave said next photo critique. All of us will critique you three. I'm totally down for that. We like last episode.
Yeah. Last episode we critiqued ourselves.
Yeah. So like, to be clear, we're far from being above critique. In fact, it's nice. It's kind of odd critiquing yourself live. That's a little weird, but like, I mean, I think that the reason we reason we chose to do this is kind of something we would like to see have an option we'd love to have for ourselves, I think.
Hang on. The photographer's asking about what we think about the touch up on the cape. He said, "Oh no, I lost the comment."
Oh,
I don't know. Is it something about using, I think, clone tool and healing brush tool? I can't remember.
The inside of the cape had wireframe, so I used a combination of clone stamp and healing brush. Well, let's take a look. I mean, honestly, I think the biggest thing is when I'm looking for it, I see some not great spots. There's some definite patterns there.
But
it's not super
there's a top where you've clone stamped and you've taken it to the edge, so you get that hard vertical line, which you should really watch out for. I'd like to see this before, but I think without knowing about it, like just looking at this, I don't like. It didn't register to me. I think it's because there's so much texture there. To begin
it's not super obvious.
You just gotta be careful when you're cloning. When you have like specific lines that are brighter, cloning them and having the same exact line all over the place, it's gonna not look realistic.
I think the only thing I noticed before that is because you said there was like a wire in it, right? I can see the wire in the cape. So I kind of wish that had been taken out, but cleanup wise, honestly, like until we zoomed in there and you mentioned it, it's really, I mean, it's done pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that was our last image for this episode. Switch it back to this guy. So these always end up taking
3 hours later.
So much longer than we think it's going to. Dave, we're not going any longer with this, especially because I have to build the formatting for each one of these stupid things. But absolutely submit one for next episode. We're happy to have any photos to critique, and there will be continuing to do more. Right now, our kind of cadence. Dave, what I'm going to tell you is, you say you forget, submit to me now, and I will. Yeah. We'll do a critique. There's no need to wait. Right now.
Yeah, you don't need to wait for us to tell you when it's happening. If you guys want us to critique anything, just send it to us.
Yeah, like send it to us anytime. I will actually have a news. The way people have been submitting is via just DMing me, and it's Sarah, and it's been really clunky. For next episode, we're going to have an uploader so that you can just visit a URL and submit the boxes and information, and then choose the photo you want to upload. I've had a good friend of mine building that out, and it'll be a lot easier to submit, and then you don't have to go through that awkward social interaction. Because I know, like I don't know, like maybe it isn't, like maybe it doesn't come off this way, but like I get like socially weirded out, like especially contacting people I don't know, like here's my photo, like being able to not have to talk to us might help some people submit more. So hopefully.
Don't be weird, just talk to us. We're just as weird as you guys are. It's okay.
Okay, that question. How professional do we need to be to submit something?
Not at all. We're not professionals.
We're not professionals. Mallo's the only one here that's doing this for any type of monetary gain, and I don't necessarily know if she'd consider herself a professional either. I don't know. I'm not gonna put those words in her mouth.
I am totally not. I do want it to be a career one day. I don't know necessarily for cosplay, but it doesn't matter. And this is the thing I want to stress. I want to personally stress because I'm just a guest here, and I won't be. I don't know if I'll be invited back, but they're probably gonna like block me after this. They're like, she didn't even really talk. Like I was just listening to you guys. I'm so trained, and I'm dying in my room because it's hot in here. But I personally think these are so helpful. Just for anyone who's not watched these before, I've submitted my photos and they've called me out on stuff and it's helped me because I'm really bad at seeing the details and stuff. And it doesn't matter how professional you are or not, you learn every day of your life. You always are getting better. There's no, you're better than someone else. Everyone's learning always. So that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, so I continue on that train. It's just really, like, we're all across the spectrum in terms of skill here. Like, don't worry about whether your stuff is more... What your goal in submitting should be is, this is a photo that I want to learn how I could improve this photo. Mm-hmm. Another comment I've gotten a lot is just like, oh, I gotta pick what my best photo is to submit. And that, no. I think, is the wrong mindset for this too. Because, like, if there's a photo you're super happy with and you're like, yeah, I'm super happy, I don't want to improve this at all, I'm really happy with where this photo is, don't submit that one. This isn't supposed to be a display of, like, oh, this is the best work. We're not. This isn't a showcase. That's not our idea. It's to help improve. Like when
we did last episode, like Andrew and I chose a photo that we thought could have been improved upon, and that's how we chose ours. We didn't choose what we thought was, our best photo, because you can't learn from that,
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say you can't, but like you're more. I think it's more useful to submit a photo that you've taken and you're like, man, I really like this, but I feel there's something missing, or something to that effect, or like, what do you think I should have done here that I could have brought this to the next level? Like, that's, I think, where we're looking, we're looking to have people grow via this, not just, oh, this is my awesome work, I want to hear people gush about my photos, because it's not like.
So I kind of want to, because Neil just mentioned, like, important aspect of photography is to have fun doing it, and that's totally true. But along the way, you're also going to have bumps where people are going to criticize your work. But like Mallo mentioned earlier, it's those comments or those constructive criticisms that are going to make you grow better as a photographer. So,
I think, especially because cosplay photography is inherently this special little niche. Like, I don't think, maybe there's a couple people in the world, but I don't think anyone gets into photography for profit. Like that, or cosplay photography for profit. Like, that's just not a thing. No. Like, we all got into this because we love cosplay, we're all big nerds, and we love taking pictures of it. Sure, can monetarily be a thing that we eventually gain from this? But even then, like, there's not a lot of money in cosplay photography. There just isn't. No. Like, I could go out and have done senior photo shoot, and I'd make a ton more than I would if I did a cosplay shoot. And that's just the nature of things. There's just, like, cosplayers are already spending a ton of money on things, and there's just not the money to spend on here. And that dynamic is hugely complicated, and I don't want to get too much into it, but I really do think that almost everyone that's gotten into cosplay photography got into it because we inherently find joy in it, and it is a hobby of ours. So if you stop having fun with it, I think that's kind of, you really need to reassess, because...
Well, the other thing I wanted to say real quick, because I've gotten feedback about your guys' live stream thing from cosplayers, is something I just want to put out there is that just as much the photographers as the cosplayers, don't be afraid to like reach out to us or anybody for that matter, no matter how many followers they have or how many they don't. Most of us, I can't speak for everyone, want to help and make you better at what you do. Sarah does cosplay and photography. I do not, so don't come to me for cosplay stuff. But like, I can speak for both of these people. They are super kind, super helpful, and like they're not going to turn away from you, because I've had feedback from beginner cosplayers like, I'm afraid to talk to them and I'm afraid of this, and I'm like, because of who you work with or who you have worked with, and it's like, no dude, like we're all super open to working with people and helping people, so that's not, these critiques isn't like we're only, we're just judging and we're this. That's not what it's about. Totally open for everybody.
So
the learning experience.
Yeah. So I'm going to be clear with this. I have an agenda behind these cosplay critiques, and it's that I want to make the cosplay photo community, photography community, and the cosplay community in general a better place for whatever small amount I can from these, to improve the artistic merits of it, and to just treat this as a friendly place where we're all can learn and improve, and free from harsh judgment, and really like just treating it not like this competition, but like this joy of building art and wanting to have self-improvement that I think it is. And I think a lot of that can get lost in the community, especially online, with how...
Well, especially right now, with the rise in Patreon and things like that. Like, we want to keep this very competitive hobby like fun for people, because at the end of the day it's about having fun. Like, it's not about like I'm better, like, oh my god, I'm so much better than Vontography, fuck Vontography. Like, it's not about that. Oh no.
It's hard. I think there's this weird human nature in most of us when we, like, as a photographer, when we look at other people's photos, to immediately judge their work against ours, and either go, oh, I'm so much shittier than there, or I'm so much better than them. And inherently, like, when you stop and think about that is such a, like, stupid thought, especially in a hobby. Like, what, like, it'd be one thing if you're working in wedding photography and you're going, oh, these people are stealing customers from me, how can I improve? But that's not how, like, this is a community, and their work can exist being worse than yours or better than yours or different than yours, and it doesn't matter. It can
it's
impact,
an art form.
So
there is no right or wrong answer, and I think sometimes that's missed a lot in the community. Like, just like, for example, like, just because I shoot natural light doesn't make me better than someone who shoots with strobes, and vice versa. Like, just because someone's style or their approach to shooting or editing or whatever is different doesn't make you better, doesn't make you worse. I mean, we're literally saying the same thing over and over again.
Yeah,
so.
it pretty much, we're like a broken record. But it's also true that, like, take our advice with a grain of salt too, because, like, I think the three of us that come from a very similar style of working. I mean, I shoot more strobe work than the two of them, but at the same time, we do shoot mostly natural light. I think we have a similar aesthetic sense, especially in terms of, like, I mean, there's big differences, but, like, in the scheme of things, looking at cosplay photography, I think our photos end up sitting in a very similar category from each other. And, I mean, partly because I think it's that we're drawing, the reason we're together is we're friends here, and we've drawn influences from each other, and we admire each other's work and try to implement it in our own, but, like, keep that in mind that our aesthetic might not be what your aesthetic is, and maybe some of the judgment calls we've made don't fit with the artistic vision you're going for, and that's totally fine to be like, yeah, I don't fully agree with their take on whatever we've said, and that's fine. Like, we're not gonna just as we hope what we're saying isn't hurting your feelings, because that's not our goal. Our goal is to just look at the piece of art and kind of give our impression. You're not going to hurt our feelings by completely ignoring it and being like, yeah, that advice kind of sucked.
Yeah. This is like, nothing is taken personally. We're just doing this. I mean, honestly, we're doing this for fun. Like, this is not, I mean, you know?
Yeah. So, there was one other comment that I saw from Matthew Jenkins, who asked, does it need to be cosplay photography for submitting to this? Yeah. I think there's plenty of other outlets for getting non-cosplay photography critiqued, and I think this is a nice, like, kind of segment for just doing cosplay photography. And, I mean, let's be real, that's pretty much exclusively what we're shooting, so I think we should stick to critiquing that, even though we do other stuff occasionally. I think this outlet will be just for critiquing cosplay photography. Maybe that branches off in the future. But
so I'm wondering, just because I don't know, does this also pertain to things like Lolita?
I think, yeah, like, there's that line of, like, you know, is it cosplay or not? I think generally, I think in the field of, like, is this a thing that was worn to a con as, like, you know, a quote-unquote costume or not, like an aesthetic that you want? Did you go to cons and get photos of you taken at cons walking down in the hallway? If the answer is yes, I think that it falls under the category of stuff that gets critiqued. I'm not gonna play, like, you know, super critical, like, is this cosplay, is this not? Like, that's I think a pretty not important discussion, but like, I think, you know, it should be, you know, like, if it's a very heavily stylistic portrait of, like, you know, Lolita clothing, yeah, totally, I'd say that's fine. But then you submit, like, someone shooting a basketball and they're, like, literally, it's a literal sports photo, not sports anime.
And like, it's a basketball anime!
No, not basketball anime! Maybe a bad analogy, damn it. But yeah.
Yes, costume portraits are, yes, those are fine.
Yeah.
Any form of anyone wearing a costume of some kind is good. It can be a narrative shot too. Your face doesn't even need to be in it. Like, anything that pertains to cosplay, you're good. You good.
Yeah. And right now, based on the number of submissions we get, your photo has pretty much been, for the last 3, I've put in every photo we've gotten. So, unless we get a sudden huge spike in terms of number of photos we're receiving, expect your photo to be critiqued.
That's a good point. Someone asked me that earlier. If we deny photos. I said no. We literally critique everything that comes through.
Watch you get like 60 or 70 images next time.
Yeah, if that happens, we'll need to reassess. Or I think the biggest thing that if we get a lot more, we will need to, I think, set timers for ourselves. Because, like, we let ourselves go really deep into these photos. And, like, I mean, we spend, like, 10 minutes per photo, something like that. Maybe longer.
Can't help it.
But, like, that's how we are. So, like, you know, this was 13 photos and what we're, well, admittedly ranting a little bit further, but, like, we've gone for 3 hours now. So.
A full movie.
Yeah.
A full long movie.
Yeah. So props to you that have stuck around for this. Jeez.
Yeah, someone said they've been here the entire time. Like, yo, you the MVP of the night.
Hell of a time to spend with you on your Thursday night. But, to wrap things up, yeah, keep the submissions coming. Right now, we've been on a cadence of about doing these around once a month. I don't know what that schedule continues to be like. I assume it's probably still going to be around once a month. If we continue to get more and more of these, we might do more. than once a month, but that's something Sarah and I will have to talk over and see how that works out with our schedules. Probably don't expect me to boost that output until after October for very, very specific reasons. But maybe after October we speed up the cadence of that. But yeah, we'll have to see what submissions end up being like and see what feedback ends up being like. I'm super happy that everyone's been comment wise has been enjoying watching this. Feel free to give us feedback on this format, whether you liked it or not. Like, God, like, I mean, we spent this entire time critiquing everyone. It'd be bullshit if we were like, no, but this format's perfect. Like, feel free to give us advice. Maybe just the one thing I wouldn't expect is us to shut our mouths and talk less. Because obviously we're really bad at that.
That's impossible.
Well, and with that, I want to thank Mallo for joining us on this episode. It was super fun having you, and your insight was awesome.
As always.
Shush, you were wonderful. I don't want to hear about how you didn't talk too much. You were great.
Shush. I'm so honored to be here.
That sounded like the worst, like, Oscars exception. I'm super happy to receive this award.
I never have to do a speech because I literally pass out. No, but I had fun, and I am very much definitely, I need to just make this quick, but I am very much someone who gets a little too, do you think they get deep? I kept my mouth shut for most of it because I get deep and I make it a whole story, and this is why I take like 3,000 years on one photo. So...
I think all of us are actually really slow editors, so...
Like, me editing Sarah's Mifa, I had to cry, I need a glass of wine. But that's just me, like, fangirling. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys letting me be in on this, so thanks.
I will start uploading these to YouTube. I don't know when I'm gonna start. I've recorded this one. I've recorded the first two, although I've missed the very beginnings of them, but they are recorded. I just need to get around the time to doing them, and honestly, I just haven't found that yet. So these will eventually end up on YouTube. You can watch them here in retrospect because they're uploaded on Facebook and they're staying on Facebook. I'm not removing them, so you can still watch them here. But I will try and put them on YouTube because I imagine that'll be easier to consume for a lot of people in retrospect. But yeah, I think with that, we'll call it a night. Thank you again to everyone who joined us, who submitted photos, and special thanks to everyone who commented in the chat. We really appreciate it and like reading it. Have an awesome night, and we'll see you whenever we have our next one.